GP. Everyone being cautious, they know it's a long race. Still 21 laps to go. So we just started the race and we're already seeing so much action on track. Hello and welcome to MotorMotion E-Series, where we return for round 8 of Season 2 in the Player 1 SimGear GT3 Championship. It's time to head to Austria. It is time for the Red Bull Ring. And this place, a huge amount of history in Spielberg, Styria, Austria. Of course, originally named the Österreich Ring, hosted the Austrian Grand Prix for 18 consecutive years from 1970 to 1987. It was later shortened, rebuilt and renamed to the A1 Ring, hosting, again, the Formula 1 Austrian Grand Prix from 1997 to 2003, made a return, reopening with a new resurfacing and a bit of a rebrand to Red Bull Ring in 2011, and now hosts the likes of the Austrian Grand Prix, the Styrian Grand Prix, the DTM, and formerly the 4 hours of Red Bull Ring. And today, we take our GT3 cars around this legendary circuit deep within the valleys and the hills of Austria. It is a beautiful circuit, a short circuit, and it is going to challenge the drivers on their ability with the fuel today, expecting about 25 laps as we head towards the last 3 rounds of this season. The team's title looking nearly all sealed up. Hasselblad Motorsports are on the verge of taking home the big trophy. Let's see what the drivers have in store for us today. Back in the commentary box and broadcasting booth again, my name is George Cooke, and I'm joined by Nick Pautasso and our pit lane reporter, Andrew Scott. Nick, welcome back to the Red Bull Ring. It's a favourite of yours, I hear.
Yes, good afternoon, good evening, George. Good evening, Ando. Good evening, viewers. Yes, we are here live on the MotorMotion E-Series YouTube channel, presented by Player 1 SimGear. It is Austria time. It is a favourite track of mine in Europe, one behind the Nürburgring Grand Prix and the Nordschleife. So I was very jealous of you having the commentary booth to yourself. Myself and Ando, we were plenty having a few steins in the bars in the Nürburgring. I think we didn't even actually make it to the commentary booth, so we were enjoying ourselves with the locals, drinking some steins, and we gave you all the hard work, but you sound like you did a fantastic job there, George, so full credit to you. But we are here at Austria, one of my favorite tracks. 10 corners around this circuit. They are very easy corners, you could say. There's a run up the hill going up past turn 1 through Niki Lauda curve towards turn 3. Well, they say turn 3, but it's turn 2 with a little kink in there at one of the fastest corners on the track there, the unofficial turn 2. But it's all the up and the downhill rise here at the Austria Ring as we are in the Styrian Hills. It kind of is a bit of a theme as well. Up and down, undulating corners, elevation changes, and Ando as well. It's probably going to be more about fuel racing than tire racing, because this track is very kind on its tires, but the fuel might be a bit of an issue for our drivers tonight.
Yeah, I think it will be, Nick. And g'day, George. G'day, viewers. First of all, is it going to be a dry round tonight? The weather looks okay, doesn't it?
Well, we'll get to the weather slide in a few moments' time. We'll see. We shall see.
I got the Lederhausen on, boys. I got the German shorts on, and I got the braces, and I got a beer in my hand. I'm ready to go. And yeah, I'm hoping it stays dry up. Yeah, a little bit chilly already out here, actually. But definitely a fuel race. I think it's going to be about 34 laps, a 50-minute race. If they can stretch the fuel out, make it a one-stop. Yeah, that could be the way to go. We all know it's a very long pit stop around here. So I think they'll be all trying to get that one stop done with the medium mandatory tyre to run.
Yeah, I believe relative to the track length, this is actually one of the top 3 longest pit stops in all of Gran Turismo 7. Let's take a look at our sponsor. Of course, it is Player One Sim Gear, sponsoring the GT3 Championship since 2023. So second season they are here sponsoring this amazing championship. They stock the widest range of sim gear under one virtual roof in the Australian market. Go to www.p1simgear.com.au. Check them out. They have done some awesome stuff for us, so you can get some awesome deals. Get out there, get involved. Also, go and check us out on www.motormotioneseries.wordpress.com for all your news, articles, and upcoming registrations for the 2025 racing. Let's talk about today. It is round 8 of the Red Bull Ring. Length of the race today is 50 minutes. Time of day is in the afternoon. So it should be sunny. We shall see in a few moments' time when we get to our weather slide. All racing tyres are permitted today. Nil tyres are mandatory because it turns out there is enough cause of concern that there may be some rain on track. So there was a planned medium tyre being mandatory, but bearing in mind the weather, which may produce a little bit of a drizzle, this is going to be no mandatory tyres today. That's going to make things interesting. Tuning, of course, prohibited, and the drivers will always, as always, allowed to adjust that brake bias. We've talked a little bit about this beautiful track here, that 630-meter down pit straight as you head towards that uphill turn 1 to the right. Nicky Lauda curve, really, really tricky to deal with. But once you get past that, it's up to the hardest braking zone, Remus, and then through my favorite section down to Schlossgold. Such a great corner there, Nick.
Oh, absolutely. Especially if you get a headwind going into turn 4, you can really see drivers going for that late lunge and going for a dive bomb movement into turn 4. The corner does open up a fair bit on the exit there, but it does tend to suck you out onto the gravel trap. So watch for the drivers just to play a little bit conservative when it comes to the exit of turn 4. But then there's just all of that double left-hander, the double left-hander through 6 and 7. Also, very well known to be in the MotoGP world, Marc Marquez's strongest part of the track there, where he would gain so much time on his rivals. He always used to gain at least about 8/10 against his rivals because he always managed to nail turn 6 and 7. And that is definitely going to be one of the sections of the track where the drivers can really lean on their cars a fair bit, and they can really just try and angle their cars to try and set up a move going through turns 9 before they get to turn 10, which is one of the most impossible corners for an overtake, but it can be done if you do it right.
We've seen it done before. Has it been done successfully? I think that's up for debate. Let's talk weather today. It is going to be RO3, so that means we have potential for drizzles and maybe even some light rain out on track. Ando, that changes the equation entirely.
Yeah, mate, this will be really interesting because we know RO3, it could stay dry. So if anyone pits for wets with the hint of rain and it doesn't actually become full wet running, their race is cooked. So, on the flip side of that, if you stay out one lap too long and the rain comes proper, it gets very skatey around here, Nick, doesn't it, on slick tyres and wet track?
Yeah, absolutely. And we did see a very classic example well back in the Oceania rounds back at Fuji, where it was a wet start before it went to dry, and especially with Group A lobby, it actually went temporarily back to wet weather racing. So we could be seeing a little bit of that. So, hopefully for the likes of Lewis Atkinson, who did get caught out, and Gopi Mahindra as well, who did actually get caught out in that situation at the time, being on the wrong tyres at the wrong time, while some of the other drivers stayed on those dry compounds, and they managed to capitalize. And that was where Black Rose Racing got their first victory in the 2024 season. So will we see a history repeat themselves at this time round in the European leg? Only time will tell, George.
That's exactly right. Just want to update something here because it does say on our screen right now Nordschleife 24-hour. That is just a little typo. You can see in the top middle section of the main screen for weather, round 8 Austria. That is where we are at today. So some important other things before we jump towards Group A broadcast. Of course, we're going with Group A and the Group B broadcast today. Hassel 1 Motorsport. Chaps, they're in a position to win it, I believe, today. Not sure if they're going to take it, but if they get a good result, it may be that the deal is sealed. And I believe I saw a rather large champagne bottle being rolled towards their garage earlier this morning. I think they're anticipating a good day.
I think so, and I think well-deserved by all the drivers and the team members that have been part of that organisation. Obviously, Mark Hasseltine, the leader of Hassel 1 Motorsport, encouraging his drivers in the likes of Mick Hill, Campbell Knowles, who then replaced Chris Lashbrook at the beginning of the season, as well as his star driver in Jackson Dean in the Pro-Am class, as well as the team owner himself in the Am class. It's been a dominant season for Hassel 1 Motorsport. They've never been shy away from getting victories, and at least every single round, we've always seen a Hassel 1 Motorsport take a victory in any class. So it just shows that these guys are on top form. The practice sessions have been flying with these guys, and they just seem to get a handle on these BMWs as well as the gridline racing. So I wonder if maybe there's been a few little communication hints between gridline and Hassel 1, and obviously you work very closely with gridline racing. Bit of a shame to not see your boys up there in the top of the standings, but obviously you have to show a bit of gratitude and a bit of praise for the Hassel 1 team, who looks to be the ones that are on top of that BMW compared to the other cars on the track.
Yeah, look, hats off to them. They've really nailed it this season. They've got a really awesome driver lineup, and they've shown up every round, and they're running away with it. But I tell you what, guys, I think a bit of a fight for second place, isn't it? Gridline's up there with Hooncourt. This could be a battle royale. Today's race obviously be very critical to see who takes out second place in the championship.
Yeah, that's a massive point there. The battle for P2 is absolutely raging, as it is within most of the driver categories. We're going to get to the results after round 8, after we get through the racing, but there are some very close battles, and one of those close battles is in Group A between the elite level drivers. No clear victor in that section for now. So let's get to today's qualifying for Group A. It's time to look at how the grid lines up. Matt Donetti for CP Motorsports finds himself on the top spot there. And then Lewis Atkinson for Hooncorp, that's critical for them starting up in P2. Gopi Mahidajit is sitting in P3 for Diffusion Race Engineering. He's on a run of good form at the moment in the last few races. And then, of course, Campbell Knowles, also known as Airborne for Hassel 1 Motorsport in the elite category, looking to help take home the points that will put them across the line and seal a deal with the team's championship. Then it's Jeremy Crow for Black Rose Racing, top of the pro category drivers today. Great result for him. I think that's first time that he's been on pole position in the pro class. Then Nick Pfaff for Astor Racing. Astor Racing still have a shot and maybe coming back into that battle for the team's championship P2 and P3 slot, but they've got a lot of work to do, especially if they find themselves behind a Hooncorp Esports and Gridline Racing car. Luckily for them, though, Dan Wood is behind Nick Pfaff. Good to see Dan Wood back on the grid. He's qualified P7 here at the Red Bull Ring, hoping to see him stick around for rounds 8, 9, and 10. So we'll see. Hopefully he will stick around. Then it is Glenn Mead in P8, second on the grid for the pro category, followed by Mick Hill for Hassel 1 Motorsport. Another critical position there for the Hassel 1 team. Nathan Wakefield lines up for Black Rose Racing in 10th. Then it's Matt McCullum, Drew Griffin, Dean van der Zaan, and Luke Stone who rounds out the grid. Good to see a few names coming back to the grid here today, Nick.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's good to see Dan Wood, who was the round 1 victor all the way back at Mount Panorama Bathurst. So it's good to see his name back on the grid. Been missing a few rounds here and there. Has been caught up on a few bit of travelling problems as well as real life commitments. So it's good to see him back here. It's definitely a track that he will suit his driving style, especially his nature of aggression when it comes to leaning on the car, leaning on the tyres. So watch for him to come through the pack from 7th all the way to challenging the likes of Donetti and Lewis Atkinson. But it is basically 1 and 2 in the championship. Both Lewis, here's a fun fact for you, George. Both Matt Donetti and Lewis Atkinson, they're 1 and 2 in the championship, but none of these guys have taken a victory. So they might be pulling off a very similar situation where we saw in 2005, Russell Ingall for Stone Brothers Racing managed to win the championship, but not take a single victory. So can one of these guys break the curse and break the hoodoo and get their first victory? Only time will tell between those two up front.
That's right. Well, the next 50 minutes will certainly tell. It's time for us to head out on track. Matt Donetti will lead us away for Group A coverage beginning on your screens right now. So, Matt Donetti hasn't had a win to his name. Lewis Atkinson hasn't had a win to his name. Then it's Gopi Mahindajit, a couple of wins to his name. Then Campbell Knowles for Hassel 1 Motorsport. We are green flag racing at the Red Bull Ring. Group A, the Elite and the Pro categories will start to battle it out now. The first critical corner, getting through there, so important, especially on cold tires. And you go through that nasty little off-camber section, the bump that kicks the car up, makes it really difficult to get the power down. Looks like Matt Donetti has done that really nicely in that first corner. Now Gopi Mahindajit putting a bit of pressure on the back of HC Lewis, a couple of 2x2s as we head into that third corner, technically, of Remus, up and at the end of the hill, hard hairpin, big braking zone from the 100-meter board into that tight section, and a couple still going side by side. Pfaff is fighting with Birdman. Dan Wood has dropped a place. Glenn Mead has made up a place, finds himself in P8 now. Nick Pfaff has had a great start for Asta Racing up into P5, not challenging this top pack just yet. It's all going off at the bottom of the grid. Absolutely love to see it into Rauch. We go for the first time. H.G. Lewis has found his way back up to the rear wing of Matt Donetti, who's not had the best of runs through the Slosh Gold area. Now into Worth through the beautiful S's section. Such a good, fun place to be with these race cars because they have so much grip, and it feels like you can just sink that foot deep into the throttle and make magic happen. Matt Donetti has held on beautifully in this lap. Lewis, though, putting all sorts of pressures on. We've got no mandatory tyres, of course, today. Bear that in mind. So starting on the softs and expecting rain does seem to be what Lewis Atkinson is planning to do, Nick.
Yeah, absolutely. A great start by all the drivers that we saw. A bit of an early start there by Gopi in P3. Looks like he got a very good strong run out of turn 1, but then just losing all of that pace on the exit of turns 3 and 4. But it looks like the MR cars are really holding on to their abilities to actually get a lot more speed through the mid corners, especially when you're coming through to turns 4, 5, 6, and 7. As we're seeing an early move there by Lewis Atkinson, who's looking to take the lead on the second lap of this race there. Well respected between the two drivers, but it is Lewis well ahead of Matt Donetti, gets the move done ahead of Matt Donetti, but Matt Donetti is not far behind. He's going to get right back underneath that rear wing. Lewis goes defensive. Where's Donetti go? He's going to find a small gap going through turns 4, Slosh Gold. They're still going to go side by side. The best view in the house is in Gopi Mahindajit's favour of the Diffusion Race Engineering Mercedes AMG. They're still going side by side through 5 and 6. But is this all going to be resolved by now? It looks to be. Yes, it is. Lewis Atkinson now takes the lead on lap 2 of so many laps here around this track here. It's great to see Lewis up there in the Audi. Matt Donetti in P2. Gopi Mahindajit third place. These guys are pulling a bit of a gap now, but now we see Dan Wood looking to make the first move on Nick Pfaff. Not yet, so turn 9 is a possibility to make a move there. And as we said early in the broadcast, it is a very minimal chance to get a move done at turn 10, but you do need to have the car right on the inside to make a move down to turn 10. But looks like he's about to make the move already up into turn 1. Get the car braking just past the 100 board, cut a bit of the inside. They both run wide. They both missed the apex, both pushing each other wide on the exit of turn 1. So unfortunately, that looks to be a bit of a wide move for Dan Wood, but he's up a place, and Nick Pfaff has been relegated as the battle pack down the below is really heating up with the pro class, with Jeremy Crow leading Glenn Mead, who is leading Mick Hill 1, 2, and 3. But now looks like Mick Hill's gone past, and he's now taking P2 ahead of Glenn Mead.
What about fantastic bit of battling we've had around the grid. Matt Donetti is now under a lot of pressure from Gopi Mahindajit, so that Lamborghini starting to suffer a little bit. I think he might even be on the medium tyres. Let's head down to our pit lane reporter. We're seeing a mix of strategies out there. No hint of rain at the moment out on track, bar a little bit of light drizzle on the pit straight. What are we seeing in terms of strategy choices out there?
Yeah, there is a good mix of tyres throughout the grid, and I can tell you right now, between the top 2 runners, there is a tyre difference. So you've probably worked it out by now who's on what, but that continues right down through the grid. So you've got battles and moves, and there's soft runners here that are gonna have to clear the pack if they're gonna make this soft tyre choice work. So that's why we saw a little bit of aggression from Dan Wood there about half a lap ago, and he's made the move, but he copped a paddling at turn 1. So it was all for naught, unfortunately. And he's sitting in 5th now. But yeah, a good mix of tyres all the way down through the grid. And I tell you what, the soft runners are going to be praying for rain right now, and the medium runners are going to be praying it holds off a bit longer.
Exactly right, where we know that the mediums will go a fair bit longer than the softs, but the soft tyres, you do manage to get yourself a little bit of track advantage, a little bit of extra speed in those laps to pull yourself ahead. Go from Hidage, still not found a way past Matt Donetti, who's just had a bit of a moment on the exit of Remus, does manage to pull that Lamborghini back into line. He'll be able to run plenty of distance into this. I'm guessing at least another 15 minutes on those racing mediums. Don't know how long the softs will last, but it won't be as long as those medium tires. So the real question is going to be, will the heavens open up? Will the dynamic weather system kick in? When are we going to get this rain? Because that is going to change absolutely everything. If it's sooner rather than later, then the medium tire runners may have just run into a little bit of trouble because they are losing track position out there.
Yeah, so Lewis is doing a really good job there, but it's a bit of an interesting delta between the two cars. And we got Lewis Atkinson already set the fastest lap with a 1:29.2. We're already about to start lap 4, but you look at Gopin Hitchin's time, 29.7. So that's just over 5/10 clear over the fastest soft lap running that we've seen with Lewis Atkinson. But we'll wait till they finish lap 4 just to get a little bit more of a reading as the tires are being heated up there between Gopi and Lewis. But actually, funny enough there, I've actually seen it with my eyes, he's actually on the soft tires as well. So just like what Ando's pointed out, the top 3, 2 of the runners are on the soft tires. The only one is Matt Donetti, but he's still lapping at very good lap pace. Lewis with a 29.1 on the previous lap, but a 29.8 for Matt Donetti. So the tyre delta isn't too much there, so the soft runners are not really pulling away as much because it is a very fast track and it's not really hard on the tyres. They're both pretty much running at that optimal temperatures on both the fronts and the rears, that when it comes to the soft and the mediums, they're pretty much running identical numbers, and that's why Donetti's actually able to push a little bit more on his tyres and actually keep up.
Yeah, and then of course there'll be a crossover as well. So if the rain does delay, the better and better the medium tires will get. The medium tires will get better and better and better as those soft tires start to drop off. And if the rain comes late, well, that puts the medium tire runners directly into the conversation. I mean, at the moment, as you said, Matt Donetti not doing a bad job. Running in the aero wash is actually killing those soft tires for Gopi Mahidaj. It's why it's so critical that H.C. Lewis got ahead of him. There is a penalty there for Matt Donetti. He's gone slightly wide of the white lines. We know that the FIA, or the motorsports body in charge of this course, is pretty brutal with those track limits, and we already have our first victim.
Yeah, absolutely. But there we go, 29.3 on the racing mediums versus Lewis's 29.1 as the fastest lap. So those mediums are now starting to come up to temperature, and Gopi Mahindra is following him at 29.2. So these guys are going at it. They're trying to catch Lewis Atkinson. Donetti has to serve his penalty though. Lewis Atkinson is clear by 0.7 of a second. Gopi Mahindra goes for the move at turn 3, struggles to pull the car up. You could see the brake disc, George, really glowing, so he was really battling to pull the Mercedes up, but it looks like he's about to redress that position to Matt Donetti because it looked like it was a little bit too much on the Diffusion Race Engineering, and very respectful driving there by Gopi, a very famous name around in the Oceanic Gran Turismo player regions. Very well respected drivers representing in the World Tours, and very well respected around Australia. But nice driving there by Gopi. He saw he did the wrong thing and he just gave him that position back.
Yeah, that's right. When you go in too deep into that Remus corner, it does end up with the person on the outside line getting pushed out. We've seen that many a time, of course, in Formula One and a number of other motorsports. Nick, that is Matt Donetti serving his penalty. Gopi Mahidaj does go through. This maybe brings Campbell Knowles into the equation ever so slightly, but guess who's there? Guess who's back? It is Dan Wood in the number 27 car for Gridline Racing, and what a debut return. I don't want to say debut, but it's a debut return because we haven't seen him racing in so long, and this was the man that really set the standard that the elite category was operating at early on in this season. Andrew Scott, let's head down to you for a moment here. Still no rain on board the soft tires, about 20% wear on a lot of these cars. Dan Wood, former teammate or replacement for yourself, doing quite well out there in MP5.
Yeah, he's on fire, guys. He's just done a fastest lap of the race. He's really all over Airborne's rear diffuser now because he's on the softs. He's making them last pretty good, pretty well. They're even tyre wear. They are wearing, but I can tell you at the front of the pack, HC Lewis has got a rear left problem. His soft tyres, his rear left tyre is looking a bit worse for wear. So he's gapped the field, but he might start coming back to them shortly. But yeah, Dan Wood, he's kicking goals, but he's got a medium runner in front of him. That could be holding him up. He's already served 2 penalties already, would you believe? So he's going for it, and he's still up there in 5th. So yeah, the guy's on fire at the moment. He just needs to get past Airborne.
Yeah, and as you were saying there, with the tyre difference between Lewis and Dan Wood, you can definitely tell with the rears lighting up on the Audi. They do light up quite quickly, especially through turns 1 and turn 3. As we can see, Dan Wood really put in the pressure. Almost looked like he was about to sneak his nose there down the inside of turn 10. And we know it can be done, but it has to be done the most sensible way possible. But he's still stuck behind Campbell Knowles, still holding on to P5, but it gets a really nice exit out of turn 1, and now he's going to pull alongside the 38. But he's getting a squeeze right onto the grass. There's a tight squeeze between the 2 BMW drivers of Hassel 1 and Gridline Racing. Can Dan Wood get it up on the inside? Gets well clear of Campbell Knowles. Throws the car on the inside, no room for Campbell Knowles, parks it on the apex, and that's a textbook move there, George, by Dan Wood. But wow, that was almost a heart-and-mouth moment there. Very, very reminiscent of what we saw at the beginning of the Austrian sprint between Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez last year.
Oh, it's a brilliant move. At the end of the day, it's what he had to do on those soft tyres because they are getting burned up entirely to a crisp, I should say. Nice sort of Kentucky Fried tyres there for Dan Wood. Running behind the medium runner. I think Campbell Knowles did well to hold on. It was a questionable squeeze there, but at the end of the day, that is racing, I suppose. It was a very scary moment, I think, for Dan Wood. Had to give a little bit of a tap back on Campbell Knowles' BMW, saying, "Look, I am here. I do exist. You've got to give me just a little bit more room than this." I think Campbell Knowles was hoping that there'd be a slightly dirty set of left-hand tyres there on Dan Wood's car. Unfortunately, it wasn't the case. Dan Wood made the move. Big gap, though, between Dan Wood and Matt Donetti, so whether he can claw his way back up to the top 3 is going to be another question for us to answer later in this race, but nice to have Dan Wood back on the grid. A quick run through the rest of the grid at the moment. Nick Pfaff has made it up to P6. He's being followed by Mick Hill, who's in a great position here for Hassel 1 Motorsport. Then it's Nathan Wakefield, who's also made up a few positions. Glenn Mead in P9, followed by Jeremy Crow, who is sitting in pole position for the pro class, has fallen back a number of positions already in this race. Not ideal for him. Still in it, though. Just needs to find his way back up to the top of the pro category. Then it is Drew Griffin, who's in P11 right now, followed by Dean van der Zaan, who's going side by side with Matt McCullum. Into Remus we go. Will it be a similar situation we just saw before? No, it's even Stevens between the two. Very fair, clean racing between these two for the P12 position. Looks like Matt McCullum will have it for now, and Dean van der Zaan picks up a 0.5 second penalty for his trouble. Then it's Luke Stone at the back of the grid at the moment for Lightning Motorsport. Let's take another look at these tyres for Lewis Atkinson, Nick, because, yeah, they are not in a great shape.
Yeah, I was just getting to my point before Dan Wood decided to put on a show for us a couple of laps ago. I was about to say that turns 1 and turn 3 for the Audi is really where it struggles the most to get the power down. It's where the car really needs to get the bottom of the car just to really squat onto that corners and get the traction, because it is such a bit of a undulating corner. As we can see the rise as they go up towards turn 1, you have to cut a little bit of that inside of turn 1, but you can see it just goes for a really wide line and then just cut it in there. You just have to take a little bit of that yellow curb. You can get away with not getting a penalty next to your name if you take it at the right point, but especially coming up to here, coming up towards the heels of turn 3. So turn 2, which is probably which is the fastest corner around this track here, but then coming up to the official turn 3, you can see there, just has to get the car hooked in, but then he just has to step on the gas. He can't wait, because if he waits, you've got drivers behind him. You've got Gopi, you've got Donetti. They're waiting to pounce on him, because that's where the car is using most of its tires, through those first couple of corners, and especially through the double left-hander coming through 6 and 7 through Rauch and Wirth in 6 and 7. But he's still holding on nicely. It is lap 10. The rain hasn't shown up just yet, so it's going to be an interesting strategy here, Ando. Obviously, we can see Lewis Atkinson and Matt Donetti. Gopi Mahidja, who are on the soft tyres. Dan Wood as well on the softs. Are these guys looking as have you seen any of the pit crews starting to get the tyres ready for potential mediums or another soft, or anything on the radar that you can see, or anything in the skies? Because it is quite dark out there at Red Bull Ring.
Yeah, it is quite dark. I think the soft runners are all praying for rain. They really are, because if it doesn't rain, I think they've cooked their goose. They will not be able to do a one-stop. And as we can see, the medium runners are easily keeping up with them, and they're all looking good for a one-stop. So unless it rains, all the soft runners, they're toast, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting because, I mean, even if you look at the fuel, they're well past 50% on the fuel burn, and we're already 15 minutes into the race. So they're only going to get they're probably going to get anywhere between 28, 29 minutes on the fuel burn. So if they pit now, yeah, like you said, they're going to have to pit again. So there's going to be a lot of two-stopping with this race. But if Matt Donetti, with his mediums, he actually stays out, he could be in the winning strategy. He could be in the winning position. And between him and Dan Wood is a huge gap. So the top three are really working in tandem with each other, and they're just pulling away from the rest of the field. While we also have down the back here, Dan Wood now coming under pressure from Nick Pfaff. So while these two, we saw them battling really hard in the opening laps, is now coming into the hands of Nick Pfaff in the Porsche 911 Asta Racing SB Tool sponsored livery that is coming through on those medium tyres. He's actually now putting the pressure on Dan Wood to get P4, while Mick Hill still leads the way ahead of Nathan Wakefield and Glenn Mead down there just inside the top 10.
This is going to be a great battle here. 3 in a row, then 2 in a row. Nick Pfaff doing a lot of work to catch back up and put his Asta Racing Porsche in a good position in this race. Medium tyres, of course, for Nick Pfaff. So as we were alluding to earlier on, definitely not quite the pace differential that we were expecting, or certainly the threshold between the medium softs clearly has been reached. This is a big opportunity for Nick Pfaff. Will he be able to make the move now? He's pulled up to the inside line. Nothing that Dan Wood can do there. Nick Pfaff pulling a great move on the gridline racing car. A little bit of contact between the two on the exit, but that is a great overtake by Nick Pfaff, but he's going to have to defend now as Dan Wood gets a good run through turn 1, where the BMW starts to shine, puts the power down nicely, but there's nothing that Dan Wood could do because Nick Pfaff has positioned that Porsche to perfection. Yeah, it is definitely getting grayer out there, and this means that we may have rain on the way. The question is, who has managed this to perfection? And right now, if you're a medium runner, I think you're pretty happy. Matt Donetti is caught right up to the back of Gopi Mahinajit as well. So the medium runners coming back into their own rather quickly. That said, it's all going to end when the fuel starts to really run out. And I think, and Ando, correct me if I'm wrong on this, I think the softs will last to the pit stop for fuel, but those tyres will be in an awfully bad shape by then.
Yeah, they're going to be leaking oil big time. You know, the window's 17 laps. They want to get at least 16, maybe 17 laps out of a tank, and the medium tire will do that quite easily. It'll just keep getting faster and faster, actually, I think. But the softs are questionable. They've already crossed over with the mediums lap time wise. We saw that with Nick Pfaff on Dan Wood, so I'm not sure they're going to make it to the one-stop pit window.
Yeah, look at the lap times that Donetti's been setting. He's from, we can say, from lap 5 to about lap 10, or to about lap 11. You can see he's just a 29.3, unfortunately lap 6 looks like he served his penalty, but 29.6, 29.2, 29.3, 29.6, 29.3. He's just been really getting on these consistency with the laps there. And you can see there with Gopi's Mahinajits, we saw him struggle a lot with the tyre wear, George, back at Willow Springs. So this could maybe bite him again if he's not able to preserve his tyres on these soft compounds.
Yeah, the Mercedes are particularly bad with that, unfortunately for them. So the soft tyre should really have been opted out of as a potential option for any racing going forward if I was the Mercedes with other options. And the medium tyre, we saw that, well, I saw that at the Nordschleife all the way through. It was mediums, mediums, mediums. You would never touch a pair of softs there for a number of reasons, but also just from the history with the Mercedes. They just do not do well on the soft tyre. Lots of pace in them, and of course if you can get that tyre going well, what Gopi really needed was to be able to overtake Matt Donetti much earlier in this race. He needed to do a Lewis Atkinson and get him on that second lap. That would have been the ideal situation for him. Then he could have managed the tyres just a little bit. We do know that he's very, very competent at managing the soft tyre life, but unfortunately it hasn't worked out for him this time. He's burnt up those soft tyres, and now he's a sitting duck for Matt Donetti, who's on the charge.
Yeah, and we can see the first man that's come into the pit lane is Dan Wood from Gridline Racing. So he's had enough of those soft compound tyres. He's about to get his service through, but not even 20 minutes into the race. So 30 minutes of potentially racing mediums and a lot of fuel saving. I mean, I know Dan Wood very well. He's not one for fuel saving, so he's going to go for send, and like if we saw, oh, well, nearly an accident there between Gopi and Martinetti. You can see those rears are being lit up, and you can see why the tires are not lasting at all on Gopi's car. That's the first sign of worn tires, and now he's struggling to pull the car up through to turn 4. Loses a lot of time to Matt Dinetti. Matt Dinetti says, "Thank you. I'll take back my P2 that I lost through my half-second penalty." Dan Wood now comes out of the pit lane. He's gone back onto the racing softs. Ando, over to you in the pit lane. Is this a mistake here by Gridline Racing, or was this the preferred strategy that Dan Wood wanted to run?
No, I think, as you said, I think he's just going to go for it. He's going to go soft. 3 20-minute stints, and he's just going to, have at it. But I just don't know it's the right way to go because the pit stop is so long. So I think all the soft runners, the reason they chose softs was because they're thinking it might rain. So it hasn't rained, so they've all made their bed now. They have to sleep in it. As we see, HC Lewis has also come into the pits quite early, so he's just committed himself to a 2-stop as well.
Yeah, if I was definitely in these drivers' positions, I definitely would have been on those medium tires for sure. Like, I know the softs are very, like, as we've always alluded to, very strong, but they wear so fast. The medium is just that nice middle ground there. And as I was mentioning, the delta between the softs and the mediums isn't that much. So, interesting strategies, George.
Interesting strategies, yeah. Look, I mean, my strategy, if I was racing today, I'm one that can't read weather maps to save my life. Every time I try to predict it, I get it wrong. So what I do is I go, cool, what is the compound that is going to be the fastest and last the longest period of time? Well, that's the medium tire, every single time. So I would always go, either if the hard was viable, maybe I'd choose the hard, but I'd run as long as possible, even to the point of fuel saving, losing positions, yeah. But if you can reach out to where the rain inevitably or doesn't inevitably arrive, then you're in a better position from a strategy perspective. You can take advantage of that. You can run long, you can get onto the wet tires at the right time, and then you can figure out your strategy from there. But that may not be the case today. We may not see rain. It's completely up to how the hills navigate the moisture around in Styria, Austria today. So we may not even see any.
Are alive with the sound of music.
They are. They're not alive with the sound of rain, though. That's the thing. That's what we're waiting for. But you're right. No music today other than the music of powerful V6 and V8, turbocharged and naturally aspirated engines. And that's a soundtrack that I can get behind every single day.
It's interesting that the MR cars are having a better time of it today, aren't they? We all saw the BMWs having a little bit of a day out at Willow Springs a couple of rounds ago, but they seem to have given that grip.exe file over to the MR cars, haven't they?
I think it's just I think it really is the characteristic of this track, though, isn't it? I mean, the MR cars, especially on the on-camber, off-camber stuff, I feel like you get a little bit more control over the car. That said, I'm pretty biased because I'm a McLaren driver.
Yeah, but that was quite some nice car control there by Gopi through turn 4, really just sliding the car. I mean, he put on a show at Budweiser balcony at Willow Springs. So he's putting, and that's a turn 4 corner as well. So turn 4 at Austria, he's done the same thing. But, exactly. But I think what he's done now, he's committing himself to the one stop because we're almost 24 minutes into this race. His tyres are right nearly on the rim, so he could potentially go for one more lap, and I think he's going to do that, and that's the most sensible thing there for Gopi, that he's going to run one more lap, half race distance, throw on maybe another soft tyre. You never know. He might actually go for a soft if it doesn't rain, but it's prime position for Gopi to actually, this could be a winning strategy for him, but it could also be a winning strategy as he drifts through turn 1 through Nicky Lauda curve. I'm sure Nicky would be proud to see that through his corner, but I don't know, because Lewis has made his pit stop. Matt Dinetti I think he's the one in the prime position there, Ando, because he's on mediums. I think he's got better fuel than Gopi Mahindra, so he could be the one to keep an eye on. Unless mistakes are made by Matt Dinetti, it's his race to lose.
Well, they've both made their pit window now, so now we're at the 30-minute mark. So, funnily enough, Gopi's become the tyre whisperer, guys, this round. He, unlike Willow Springs, where he was frying them, he's made those softs last somehow, and he's sitting there in P2 only 3 or 4 seconds back from the lead. So it's sort of worked out for him, but it'll be very interesting to see when he pits if he's going to stick to his guns and go for softs again or not. I think on a light fuel load, oh no, they're going to have to take a full tank of fuel, aren't they? So yeah, it'll be very interesting to see if he goes back onto the softs or whether he goes for the mediums.
It will indeed. We saw Dan Wood come out of the pits with 78 litres on board. This will no doubt be a pit stop for Gopi Mahindra. Does manage to drive off the track before cutting across the pit lane entry line and then eventually making it in. That could be penalty territory. We'll keep a close eye on that. 6 litres of fuel on board. This is how things stack up right now. Matt Donetti remains in the lead of this race as we head past the halfway mark. Nick Pfaff technically in P2, followed by Gopi Mahindra. Campbell Knowles staying out. He's taking provisional 3rd place. We've got Nathan Wakefield, Glenn Mead, Jeremy Crow, Matt McCullum, all on the mediums, all in the pit stop to refuel those cars and throw on a new set of tyres. Luke Stone finds himself up the grid. He's actually technically in P9. He will end up in P4. Still has to do one more lap before he gets himself into the pits. Then it's actually Lewis, who actually went onto the medium tyre with a full tank of fuel. So that, I think, is a good idea from Lewis Atkinson. He's going to retake the overall lead of this race. Dan Wood is just behind him at the moment. Gopi Mahindra still sitting still. That's going to be a very slow pit stop for him, so it'll be interesting to see where Matt Donetti ends up being spat out once he makes his pit stop. Mick Hill comes across the line. He's made his pit stop. Then, of course, we jump down. It's Drew Griffin and then Dean van der Zandt in the other Hooncorp Audi R8. Question is, will Matt Donetti come in on this lap? I think he's maybe got enough fuel.
He's going to go long
for one more lap. I think he's got one more lap on him, yeah.
Yeah, and then he might go softs. So he might go medium soft, and he's going to be hard to beat if he does so. So this could be a masterstroke right here from Donetti, who dropped back to 3rd overall at the start of the race. We all saw that, but he was patient. He bided his time, and that decision to start on mediums is now paying huge dividends for him.
And another person who's staying and going long is actually Campbell Knowles, who's done really well on his tyres right now. The medium's in great shape, and he's still got enough fuel for probably about 1.5 laps there, Nick.
Yeah, and I'm actually very surprised as well. He's actually making that fuel tank go very long in the BMW. We know the BMW really likes to chug through its fuel tank very, very fast, but he's actually done a good job there. 19 laps on a tank of fuel on the BMW. There's hats off to him. He's done a very good job. But we also saw there, Lewis has actually made a big gain on Gopi Mahindra. While we saw the two of them, as well as Donetti, really in close quarters with each other, Lewis is about to exit turn 1, and Gopi is pretty much on the middle of the pit straight. So this is a huge game for Lewis Atkinson. But the thing with Lewis is he pitted with 20 minutes into this session. He has 30 minutes to make the medium tires last, and also make the fuel tank last. By the looks of things, Matt Donetti is doing that on the racing mediums, and now he's going to go for a fast sprint on the softs. So it's going to be close. I just don't know yet. This is going to be very exciting to see what happens between these two.
It's going to be great. I mean, Lewis, he's got tyres to the end. No doubt about that. The mediums will last. I mean, even with the way the R8 does treat them. The question is, does he try to fuel save? Does he try and, is he going to do something with the fuel that is going to maybe cause him to have a bit of a misstep in this race? Matt Donetti probably doesn't need to take a full tank of fuel. That's going to work to his advantage. Lewis Atkinson only just making it through Worth right now. Matt Donetti is finally stopped in the garage. Let's keep an eye on this. It'll almost certainly be a soft tyre change for the CP Motorsports team. And the number 51, in goes the fuel. 14, 15, 20%. Here we go. Lewis Atkinson coming through turn 9 now onto the straight through Red Bull Mobile Curve. There's turn 10, looking clean at the moment. 50 litres, 60 litres. When's it going to stop for Matt Donetti? This is going to be critical to the race. Looks like quite a lot of fuel going on board the CP Motorsports car. Is it going to be a full tank? It's going to be a full tank. That means Lewis Atkinson will absolutely be in the lead of this race. Matt Donetti might have missed a trick there, but he is on the soft tyres, so he will be quick, Nick.
Yeah, and I was about to say that Lewis is on 75 litres, and obviously the drivers can't see each other's telemetry, so obviously his team crew didn't actually calculate that right. Airburn is on 86, so he's put less than Matt Donetti. So obviously the team hasn't communicated with his pit crew to say you don't need to put a lot of fuel. So is this a strategy blunder from CP Motorsports, who are yet to take a victory in this championship, in this MotorMotion, in this Player One SimGear GT3 Championship for Season 2 here at MotorMotion E-Series? This could be a blunder, but it is Donetti's time. It is time to shine. It is hammer time in the Lamborghini Huracan. Can he do it? It's only less than 20 minutes to go of racing.
Here we go. Go from Hiddeger is in 4th place, and it's Nick Pfaff in a battle with Campbell Knowles. Has made it up ahead of him, though. So P5 right now for Nick Pfaff in a good position. Bear in mind, Dan Wood was our first pit stopper. He's up there in P2, but he's low on fuel, and the tyres are already starting to run away from him. I think he's hoping, really hoping now for a bit of fuel, but that 2-stopper is what Dan Wood is going for. We've seen him do this before, not only in the GT3 Championship, but also in the TCR Cup as well. Campbell Knowles on the racing softs now, plenty of fuel on board. Then it's Mick Hill. So 2 Hassel 1 Motorsports drivers in a row, P6, P7. Not the kind of points all they may want from this elite and pro category, but nonetheless, it'll still help towards the team's title and securing that today. Then it is Gridline Racing's Glenn Mead in the 999 car, racing mediums for him. Plenty of fuel on board, being chased down by the very quick old Wakey Nathan Wakefield for Black Rose Racing. That Mercedes coming to life on the racing medium tyres. The softs, it just doesn't really operate as it should do, or as it needs to, I should say. But on the mediums, it absolutely comes alive. Then Drew Griffin up into P10 right now. Jeremy Crow having a bad day out in P11. Matt McCullum with a penalty in P12. Dean Van der Zart P13. And then Luke Stone still at the rear of the field. Oh, big moment there for Luke Stone on the exit of turn 1. Scariest place to put the power down. Almost, I would say, in all of motorsport. Just the nature of the corner.
Yeah, it's a bit of a question mark what's going on with Luke Stone's car. Obviously, Lightning Motorsports, they don't have their elite driver anymore due to some personal reasons. He couldn't commit to the rest of the season. But Luke Stone, obviously, we saw a dominant victory at Road Atlanta for the man in Lightning Motorsports, but really struggling here in the Styrian Hills. So something's not working with that Audi R8. We might have to see if we can talk to the team boss and see what's been going on, and talk to someone with the team engineers. But that car hasn't really been on the front foot as we've seen it in the previous rounds that we was battling the likes of Mick Hill, Glenn Mead, and Jeremy Crow in that pointy end of the championship. Because you have to remember, he's also up there to actually battle for this pro championship, and he's down in 14th and last place, so not where he wants to be, and a bit of a struggle streak for Luke Stone, unfortunately.
Yep, that is the way. Unfortunately, the season has started to turn. Still 2 more races after this one, round 9 and round 10, when we head to Catalonia and then Spa. So a little bit of time to make up for any bad result here today. But it's one of those things, once you get past the halfway point of the season, you really need to start putting in those bankers in a way. Even if you've had a bad start to the season, in the latter half, there's still plenty of points to gather back. But if you start having some poor results towards the end of this, then, well, you know that your opponents are the ones making progress on you. So it's a bit of a downward spiral, but let's hope that Lightning Motorsport can get on top of what that R8 is doing. We do know, of course, that the R8 is burning up its rear tires quite a lot. That might be something that's affecting Luke Stone just a little bit. Or they may be expecting something else to happen with that car. Nonetheless, still no rain today, even though the setting is technically R03. That means light rain / drizzle, but still yet absolutely zero rain dropping on track, which would be, I think, quite happy moments for the drivers and teams, not having to worry about interrupting their strategy calls here today, especially given we've seen basically 2 polar opposite strategies: racing soft, racing softs, racing mediums into racing softs, and then of course racing softs into racing mediums, which is what we're seeing at the top spot with Lewis Atkinson.
Or you could just be doing what Dan Wood is full send, racing soft, racing soft, racing soft. So that's
is that
exactly
really a strategy, though? No, I'm kidding. You're absolutely right.
He's having a good time. He's having a good time. He knows he's not in any championship fight. Obviously, he's there to try and give as much points as he can to Gridline Racing's quest to get P2 in the team's championship. So he's looking to try his best to try and get some extra points, whether it's fastest lap, whether it's in track position. he needs to be able to get those points for his team there. But Cooke already setting the fastest lap at 29.109 as the fastest lap for the Mercedes driver for Diffusion Race Engineering. A very strong performance last time out at the Nordschleife. Had done really well to get that Mercedes working to his liking and managed to win that by an absolute breeze there did Gopi. So he was looking to try and back that up here in Austria, but it's just a bit of a different scenario with the MR and the FR cars, obviously with tyre wear balancing and the wear rate between the fronts and the rears of the cars. So Lewis wears it quite hard on the rears, and Gopi looks like he wears it quite a fair bit on the fronts there. So very interesting strategies, but he is closing up a little bit to Matt Donetti, who Matt Donetti is actually closing up to Dan Wood, and Dan Wood is actually closing up quite a fair bit on Lewis Atkinson. So the top three can kind of see each other on that pit straight right now as Lewis goes through turn one to start his 24th lap, and Gopi Mahindran is not too far behind. He can sniff them, but it's a long way to go, and it sets another purple lap there. So if he keeps going purple, George, this could be a spicy 46th minute of racing.
Yeah, it might well indeed, and I want to quote a line from the chase right now. Do you think you could beat these guys? Do you think your strategy calls might be better than the ones we're seeing here today? Well, if you think you're smart enough, you may well be. Come and try it out. Next time we have a GT3 championship season, we'll have more details on the 2025 season at some point later this year or early next year. So make sure you go to www.motormotioneseries.wordpress.com. Get involved in our Facebook group and Discord channel so that you get all the updates and the available registrations for upcoming seasons. Plenty of teams looking for drivers going forward. Plenty of opportunities to go racing at MotorMotion E-Series. Let's talk more about the race. Matt Donetti has caught up to the back of Dan Wood, whose tyres are in all sorts of bad shape. Still plenty of fuel on board, and he'll have to try and hold this Lamborghini off as long as possible. When he does that second pit stop, I don't know, probably in the next 5 minutes or so, 5 or 6 laps, maybe only 4, depending on how the fuel is going. It's less than 25% now, Nick.
I think he should have done it now, because looking at that track map, he's going to be well buried into that battle pack of that midfield, but that's battling between about P6 to about P12. He's going to be right in there as we see Matt Donetti looking to go for a send on Dan Wood. Gap is closed just a little bit there, bit of racing room given, but not enough of an opportunity for Donetti to sneak past Dan Wood there, the experience hands of Dan Wood in that BMW, but he's now got an opportunity through Remus as he's powering through that Lamborghini very fast on the straights, throws it on the inside at Remus as he clips the apex there, gets it pulled up, and it's up into P2. Up into P2, a nice move there by Matt Donetti. As we cross over to Ando Scott there, I was obviously just going back to your team in Gridline Racing. Dan Wood, P3, yet to make a pit stop. He's going to get caught up in that battle pack there. So do you think this is the right strategy, or do you think he's just maybe come a little bit underprepared? Did he actually arrive at the track late? Was he not given any papers about how the strategy or this race was going to work? Because it seems a little bit questionable of that two-stop that he's running.
Yeah, there might have been a little bit of a lack of preparation from the Gridline team here today, because I think Dan really is on the inferior strategy. He's going to have to definitely pit again, probably right now, and he's going to drop well back into the mid-pack when he does. He hasn't chosen to pit yet, but he's already losing big time to the cars around him, and he has to pit again and they don't. So he's not going to be challenging a podium today, but hopefully he can pick up some points for the team. And I can tell you guys at the moment, HC Lewis is doing really, really well on those medium tyres. They're just going to keep getting faster. He's done a 29.6. Donetti has done a 29.1 his fastest lap, but then a 29.8. So he might be crossing over with Lewis's lap times already. And Mahindran, who's absolutely flying on the softs right now, he's done a 29 flat purple lap, but he's dropping off as well because he's on the softs and he's hammered them, guys. He's hammered his left tyres.
Well, this bodes very, very well for some, not so well for others, And a quick update from around the grid. We do have Mick Hill leading the pro category right now, as far as I can tell. And it is Nathan Wakefield in between. A little bit of a Nathan Wakefield sandwich between Gridline Racing and Hassel One Motorsports. Glenn Mead is the second place pro driver right now. And then it is Toolshed. Drew Griffin in third place, someone who we haven't had too much of an opportunity throughout the season to talk a lot about, but he has been putting in maybe not the best results for Asta Racing, but they've certainly been consistent. And third in the pro category today would certainly be up there with one of his best results over the entire season.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's a bit of a shame for Jeremy Crow in P4 after starting in pole position and 5th overall, George, and he's in 11th overall. So there's a bit of concerns here for Black Rose, where they've been kind of strong in these kind of conditions where you have a little bit of rain in the clouds and a little bit of a dark circuit, that these guys obviously seem to get their cars lit up and they actually manage to work there. But somehow in Austria, there doesn't seem to, the package is not working for Black Rose. So full credit to Drew Griffin. And I was having a little bit of a chuckle a couple of laps ago when you were trying to go through the grid and you were mentioning Drew Griffin. You actually said Gru Griffin. And I was like, as we see an accident there by Jeremy Crow there. Unfortunately there, and that's his day done and dusted, and it's an unfortunate end to his campaign from pole position to last place on the grid. Wow, what a turn of events this man has, unfortunately.
And yes, you're absolutely right. I believe I did say Gru Griffin. I think I actually recall saying it as well. So that is a hilarious faux pas for the end of the season. More to come, I'm sure. So make sure you stay tuned on the YouTube channel. Give us a like and subscribe for more hilarious moments like that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Who knows what I said at Nordschleife? I could have been saying anything. I didn't have anyone to fact check me.
Yeah, and you had the live stream going, so no one picked up on your mistakes there. So full credit to you. That's you actually just gone under there. It was like, oof. Thankfully, no one's picked up on my mistakes there.
Oh, you're assuming that I have the ability to detect my own mistakes. I do not, though. I appreciate the confidence. In the meantime, Lewis Atkinson is leading this race, and I think we do need to talk about him right now because he's on for potentially his first win of the season. He's come close a number of times, few second places throughout the season, some really good drives, but yet to find a victory. And I'll be honest, I was a little bit skeptical. The R8 and the burning of the tires didn't seem to bode well starting on the racing softs, but he has really come alive on those racing mediums. The times that he set on the right-hand side, super consistent, and he is absolutely running away with it. Got plenty of fuel. I think he can make it to the end, unless Matt Donetti can do something on those racing softs before they start to cross over. I think that might be the pendulum swinging Lewis Atkinson and Hooncorp Esports' way today.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the problem is the fuel with Donetti. He's got too much. It looks like Lewis actually has timed that to perfection. He's only got nearly a quarter tank left, or almost just above a quarter tank left, and Matt Donetti's got half a tank left. So he actually stayed in the pit lane a lot longer than Lewis Atkinson did. He's pushing, so he's actually really pushing. We just saw a purple second sector in Matt Donetti's Lamborghini Huracan. We'll see what the lap time is as he crosses the line into 29.4. So he's still got pace to burn, as well as Scope Mahidra 29.4 in the previous lap at 30.1. So his tires are starting to burn up quite quickly. So these two on the soft tires are really gunning for Lewis Atkinson, but Lewis is really holding on to those medium tires. Like you said, they're running even pace to Matt Donetti's soft tires, but Matt Donetti, I think he's got the fuel wrong, gentlemen.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, we talked about some tracks this season where the fuel is very cheap. You know, that's usually where you have the shorter pit stop. It's usually where you get away with a bit of fuel saving. Lift and coast isn't particularly slow. This is not a track like that. Very long pit stop, and that 4 liters a second counts for so much on a short lap like this. Andrew, I'm sure you're absolutely all over that fact, because it is one of those things. The longer you end up stopped, you need to do the practice. You need to do the figuring out how much fuel can I take for the end of the race. If I get that wrong, 2 or 3 seconds out on track, suddenly you're not in the slipstream, suddenly you're not able to catch.
Yeah, well, according to the Cooke supercomputer, it actually doesn't matter how long the pit stop is or what track you're at. It's just the lobby settings. So 4 liters a second with a usage rate of 3 or whatever it is, you know, fuel is pretty cheap. It's cheap at every race, but you still don't want to take more than you have to. And that, I fear, is what Durnetti's done today. He's taken more than he had to, and it's cost him of the order of about 4 or 5 seconds. And as we can see now,
It's about
that's the
4
gap.
seconds.
So
Yeah.
that's the win. He's cost himself a
Well,
win by taking too much fuel.
And I immediately have a deja vu, a flashback straight back to Suzuka in Group B, where we saw Jackson Dean unbelievably taking a win that day through what he has said in the interviews as sheer dumb luck, because Mark Pacheco sat in the pit lane, got full fuel, came across the line with 25 litres on board.
Yeah, that's 6 seconds, guys. That's 6.5 seconds of race time that you don't need to spend. So, yeah, it's painful to watch, but I think CP Motorsports has got it wrong today.
And that is going to cost them potentially a maiden victory in the elite category with Matt Donetti, who has been a great contender this season so far. Still a couple of races where he has some potential. In the meantime, looking at this current battle, 0.5 second penalty for Mick Hill, our pro category leader, under big attack from the Black Rose Racing Mercedes. Boy, oh boy, that was Nathan Wakefield nearly into the rear diffuser of Mick Hill there. He is in trouble, especially, Nick, given that Glenn Mead is right there and within range of that penalty.
Yeah, Wakefield's not part of this battle in the overall championship, but because he's in the elite class. But Glenn Mead is right there. He's going to have to pull to the left-hand side is Mick Hill, and you're going to see that grid line BMW go by through. Literally, cue the Jaws theme for Big Brucey the Shark.
There he goes,
and he's gone past him. Very suitable for Big Bruce the Shark there, our favourite Kiwi.
We have had so many conversations and laughs about a soundboard being introduced here. I've always maintained that it's highly unprofessional, but absolutely for Bruce the Shark, we need to have a soundboard, and the Jaws theme absolutely needs to be a feature.
Absolutely.
that or the Finding Nemo theme, one of the two.
We have to be able to get one of our series admins to be like, is this professional enough? Probably not, but it's fun.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what we're here for. We're here for the fun. We're here for the good times. But it is Glenn Mead that leads the pro class after that half-second penalty served by Mick Hill. But you got to remember, Mick Hill is on the softs. Glenn Mead is on the racing medium, so he's actually able to push a little bit more now on that grid line. He's got just under, about to hit 3 minutes until the end of this race. So 2 more racing laps that we're looking at between these two, and this is quite spicy. We know Mick Hill, and Ando knows Mick very well. He doesn't give up. If he's in a position where he has to serve that half second and he loses that lead, he's going to go for it. He's going to push right to the end.
Oh yeah, he's got some stamps in his center console, and he's willing to lick them, I think. But his problem is that Brucey ahead of him's on the mediums, the same tire, but they're much fresher. So Brucey's got a bit more fuel and significantly better tires. So I don't think Mick's going to be able to challenge him. Whereas Captain Snooze ahead of Bruce, he's got him in his sights. Captain Snooze is also on fresh mediums as well, though. So I think this race in this mid-pack section of the pack has sorted itself out. It'll be like this till the end, I think.
Yeah, and plus we've got to remember Nathan Wakefield is in the elite class as well. So the top 6 are the elite drivers in Lewis Atkinson, Matt Donetti, Gopi Mahidjit, Nick Pfaff, Campbell Knowles, and Nathan Wakefield. Unfortunately, the last runner in the elite class is Dan Wood, setting the fastest lap on a couple of laps ago, 28.894.
Oh.
So that's a very fast time there by Dan Wood, but unfortunately sitting P10 overall in this race, in 7th and last place in class. But it's just this battle pack that we're seeing between the top 3 contenders in pro: Glenn Mead, Mick Hill, and Drew Griffin for Astor Racing. A full hats off to the man for Astor Racing to getting his first podium in 2024. So a great performance there. Very quiet from Drew, but he's doing very nicely to hold on to P3.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I was thinking of more jokes while you were all talking about that, feeling like Mick Hill is trying to whisper the mantra of the Sharks from Finding Nemo, saying fish are friends, not food. Unfortunately today, Mick Hill has become food for the shark that is Glenn Mead, and Glenn Mead is on for a win in the pro category. And Mick Hill did have a moment earlier this lap on turn 1, got it all wrong on the exit. Try to put the power down, but the grip's just not there. And so the BMW says, no, thank you. And that's a big gap. He's lost the slipstream too. So I get the feeling the pendulum is well and truly swung towards Glenn Mead. Coming up to the last couple of laps. In fact, this may just be the last lap of the race. Lewis Atkinson and the lead he has got are absolutely indomitable today. He's done an incredible job in the 151 R8. Right on the edge of fuel, so he'll be hoping that this is the last lap. In fact, I can tell you it is, because he's still got 35 seconds, or 25 seconds. Wipers are on. Okay, interesting. So we have had a little bit of rain here. It's not really to any significant note, though, let's be honest, because the race is essentially over. And if you're in a position where you've got a gap behind you, just bring it home nice and slowly. Flash of the lights there as well from Lewis Atkinson. I think he might know that the cameras are focusing on him. He's on for his first win. Hooncorp's first win in the elite category as well. And this is an absolutely massive moment for Lewis Atkinson. He will be absolutely stoked. Does get it through Red Bull Mobile Curve. And that is going to be the checkered flag for Lewis Atkinson. Congratulations. First time on the podium, so not the podium, first time on the top spot for Hooncorp Esports in the elite category, and Lewis Atkinson brings it home for a P1 position. That is great work by the young man, and he will be absolutely over the moon with that. Held off a very, very tricky attack by Matt Donetti, who got pole position, but wasn't able to hold it early in this race. Then Gopi Mahinderjit did his best, nearly held the fastest lap as well. That's now gone, of course, to Dan Wood. That's your top three for the elite category. Let's go and take a full look at the results. That was a great race. It was a strategic race, and boy, oh boy, that is a huge congratulations for Lewis Atkinson, Nick.
Oh, absolutely. A well-deserved victory for Lewis Atkinson. I was a little bit concerned there when he came into the pit lane quite early on. He came in with about 20 minutes into the race, and he made that fuel tank last 30 minutes, and the medium tyres held on to absolute perfection. So that's a class drive from Lewis Atkinson. Matt Donetti right on the rims on that last lap too. Is unfortunately for him, not able to get anywhere near close to Lewis Atkinson, but we did say that CP Motorsports took too much fuel in the car. He just had over 25% left on the CP Motorsports Lamborghini Huracan, so he was absolutely revving the guts out of that Lamborghini, but it wasn't enough, unfortunately. Gopi Mahinderjit the same, running on the rims at the end. So, but he still holds on for the podium. Nick Pfaff, Campbell Knowles, and Nathan Wakefield, our top six runners in the elite class, while we saw Glenn Mead, and we saw that move made. Unfortunate mistake by Mick Hill, who got that half-second penalty, but the Shark pounced, and he got his man, and he got P1 in here at Red Bull Ring, with Mick Hill, Drew Griffin rounding up a 7th, 8th, and 9th overall, with Dan Wood rounding up inside the top 10. While we have the rest of our runners, Matt McCallum for CP Motorsports, yet again, still missing out on that podium. So he's still holding on to a lot of fourth places. I think the man that's probably going to take that honor of the most fourth places is Matt McCallum. He's going to run very impatient. He wants that podium, and he wants that victory for CP Motorsports. So, unfortunate for him, P4 is not a number that he wants to be seeing anymore. He wants that podium, and he's got 2 rounds to do it. Dean Van der Zandt, Jeremy Crow, and Luke Stone rounds up the rest of our pro drivers, with Daniel McDonald and Chris Duncan DNSs here at Red Bull Ring.
There we go. Yeah, I think Matt McCallum, I'm not sure if he's a Kiwi or not. I think he's an Australian. But 4th place, if you're a Kiwi, you know that is 1st place in our eyes, or at least for some. Nonetheless, good on them. That's a good result from many out on the grid. Let's talk driver of the day, chaps. In chat, for those watching on youtube.com, give us a like and subscribe. Let us know who your driver of the day is today. I'm going to throw this immediately to Andrew Scott, because he is probably holding a beer by now, and will be keen to get drinking that, I suspect, before we go on break. Andrew Scott, your driver of the day, please.
Yes, I do have a beer in hand, George. You're absolutely right. I'm back in the grandstand now with the crowd, and you'll be happy the later houses, they got a little bit damp, but the old tanned legs of mine that I'm showing off, they're nice and dry still. So my driver of the day, I think it's going to have to go to Lewis. You know, Lewis there just executed a perfect strategy, a perfect race. The one-stop soft and medium was the way to go. He made no mistakes, no penalties. And it's not his nature. We all know his nature is to just go for it, but he saved tyres, he saved fuel a little bit. He did what had to be done, and he executed. So my driver of the day goes to him.
Fantastic. Nick, let's go to you for your driver of the day, please.
Yeah, I agree with all of the above there, and my drive today is going to have to go to Lewis Atkinson there, yeah, and he doesn't like the rain as well, so he was praying that the rain didn't actually show up. So I think that's probably the reason why he actually went on the soft tyres, because he was thinking, I want to drive this thing this Audi R8 as fast as possible, so that way I escape the rain, and he's done perfectly. And as I said, he made that fuel tank last very well in that Audi R8. So he saved a lot of fuel, made those mediums last to the end, and you know, he actually got the upper hand on strategy. We thought Matt Dedetti was going to have the strategy masterclass, but too much fuel on that CP Motorsports, and as Ando alluded in the broadcast, about 4 or 5 seconds lost in that pit lane, we could have been seeing a much closer battle for victory in the elite class, but unfortunately that wasn't the case. And Lewis Atkinson, that's a well-deserved drive and a well-deserved victory, and finally the monkey's off his back, and that's a victory to Cooke Esports.
Yeah, exactly right. I'm almost certain that's why he was on the soft. Just needed the race to be over as soon as possible. Saw the rain coming in on that last lap and breathed a sigh of relief, because if that rain had come in any sooner, the track ahead of him would have started to form into the shape of the Fuji Raceway, where he had an absolute shocker of a time in the wet. Nonetheless, congratulations to Lewis Atkinson. He's going to get all 3 votes. I don't have to add any more. You guys have summed it up perfectly. Lewis Atkinson, congratulations. You've got 3 votes from the commentary booth today for your first victory, and a well-executed, calmly executed strategy today that has borne a win. Fantastic stuff, and Cooke Esports will be taking home a lot of points too for their title championship hopes. I think driver of the day will be determined by us, but also by chat, so let us know who your driver of the day is. We're going to go on a very short break, so we will be back in a few moments' time for Group B coverage. It's time for the Pro-Am and Am category. We look forward to it very, very much. We're barreling towards the end of the season. Stay tuned. We'll be back with you in a few moments' time. All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to MotorMotion E-Series Player 1 SimGear GT3 Championship. Round 8 continues with the Group B coverage for the Pro-Am and Am categories in a few moments' time. We did forget to go through some standings, so we will go and do that right now for the Elite and the Pro drivers, give you an update on where the standings were. The results for that were slightly delayed. Then we'll get into the qualifying results for Group B and straight into the race after that. Let's check out the results for the Elite and Pro standings. Here we go. So Lewis Atkinson extends his lead out to 11 points for Cooke Esports for P1 in the Elite standings. And it is Matt Denetti on 247, but 246 points now for Gopi Mahinderjit, 1 point separating those two. And it is not an unreachable goal for either of them to retake the lead. So it's by no means over, but Lewis Atkinson taking his first win of the season has really put himself in the box seat as we head towards the last 2 rounds of the season. Nathan Wakefield in P4, followed by Nick Pfaff, 1 point separating those two between P4 and P5. Campbell Knowles on 145, Chris Duncan on 41, and Dan Wood making a return, a fantastic return, I should say, to the grid in P8 for Gridline Racing on 32 points. Quickly through the pro standings here, Mick Hill for Hassel 1 Motorsports on 313 points. Only 8 points clear. Can I do math? I think I can. No, 6 points clear of Glenn Mead in P2. Nice and close battle between those two as well. A little bit further down, though, Jeremy Crow, what could have been basically a way to get himself back into that battle for the P1 slot today, slipped away from him with a couple of mistakes despite qualifying on pole position in the race. Then Luke Stone in P4 on 248, followed by Matt McCullum, Drew Griffin, Dean van der Zaan, and Daniel McDonald. I was about to say Don McDonald, but no, Daniel McDonald in P8 in the pro standings. That's how it all lines up. Let's take a look at our qualifying results now for Group B. And this is how it lined up. We've got Rob Jacobs for Cooke Esports on pole position, Nick.
Yeah, and who is next to him? Aiden Chase for the AM class. So this is actually Aiden's first pole position for the AM class in the Group B Player 1 SimGear GT3 Championship. So 1 and 2, well done to those guys. Rob Jacobs is now looking to emulate the performance of Lewis Atkinson in Lobby A, in Group A. Now he's going to try and lead the pack in Group B. But Aiden Chase, well done to him. Then we have Riley Nicholson, who put on a really strong performance for CP Motorsports last time out, making his debut for CP Motorsports at the Nürburgring Nordschleife, put in a superb performance for P2 overall in Pro-Am. And now we have Mark Pacheco, P3 or 4th overall, lining up on that second row. And then Jackson Dean, the championship leader, who could potentially wrap up the championship either this round or the next round in his class, because he's running away with all of the with his points haul that he's been getting over the last few rounds over Mark Pacheco. Done a very good job. And then Bob Massey, Super Bob, the man that put on a solid performance last time out at the Nordschleife, is 6th place overall, rounding up the third row of the grid and 2nd in class, while Mark Hasseldine, the man of the hour, the man that could potentially seal his title for both himself and the team at the end of this round. We'll find out in due time. Troy Britnell, Mitch Collin, and Rich Robertson rounds up the top 10 overall, with Rick Atwell. Bit of a shame to see him outside the top 10. Bit of a disappointment there to see the AM driver outside, just missing out by a few hundreds over Richard Robertson. Shane Outer, then Jeff Brun actually making a turn. So the series admin of MotorMotion E-Series is looking to have a run for Diffusion Race Engineering in the Pro-Am class, with Graham Splint in 14th, and then we have Jack Finch 15th and last place. So familiar name there we're seeing there, gentlemen. We're seeing Jeff having a go in the Diffusion Race Engineering. Obviously, he's known to be part of Gridline Racing. Obviously, there's no vacancies available, so now throw him in a Mercedes. He's going to have a lot of fun for Diffusion.
He will indeed. Yeah, nice to see Jeff back on the grid, and he might be doing a little bit of season testing for upcoming races in 2025 as well, but nonetheless is back on the grid. Great to see him racing for Diffusion Race Engineering in the Pro-Am class. I do want to make a note here that Riley Nicholson was driving in the AM class for CP Motorsport. He's now replacing Cruzen, who was in the Pro-Am part. So that is Water Arrow, Riley Nicholson, up into the Pro-Am category, and a great qualifying for him and CP Motorsports. It's really on at the top of the grid this side. Rob Jacobs needs these points. He needs to win today. If he doesn't get this win today, Jackson Dean could be out of reach. Same with Mark Pacheco. Needs to find his way past Riley Nicholson, and then, of course, through Aiden Chase as well. But, wow, the AM class today doing absolutely fantastic. Last few races have been brilliant. Nordschleife was a real, hammer in the windmill. That's the wrong metaphor, but you all know what I mean. It certainly is not a good. It's certainly an interesting situation for the M class. Aiden Chase, great qualifying there. Bob Massey, I think we need another soundboard for this guy. We need to remix the Super Max song, and we need to get a Super Bob song. Was it Bob, Super Bob, Super Bob? Done
Yes,
brilliantly well. Yep, yes, he can. Oh,
Bob
there
the
we go.
Builder.
Yeah, Bob the Builder. Not sure if it's the right kind of implication. Nonetheless, that'll be a bit of fun. Looking forward to it. Andrew Scott, we have seen a little bit of rain just at the end of Group A, and I do notice there's been a little bit during that break.
Yeah, and I tell you what, guys, there's a couple of cars starting on intermediates. So
Interesting.
there's definitely some rain
Interesting.
about. There's a lot more rain about than last race, than the Group A race. So there's, once again, a good mix of tyres, softs and mediums, and a couple of guys on intermediates. So watch out. Watch this space. Let's see how this unfolds.
This
Lobby
is going
bizarre.
to be...
Here we
Yeah.
come.
I was going to say, like, of course we don't get any rain for Group A, but of course Group B gets a little bit of wet weather just to mix things up. This is going to be a fantastic race. Let's head out on the circuit, but the cars are driving around and getting into the rolling formation start. Let's get out on track and get things going. Here we are. Rob Jacobs will lead us away. He is on the medium tyre. Aiden Chase just in behind. Then it is Riley, Water Arrow for CP Motorsports, and Mark Pacheco. Jackson Dean, our Pro-Am category leader at the moment in P5, followed by Bob Massey. Great start by everyone off the line. Rolling start, of course. No way to muck that one up. And into turn one, we go for the first time. It's Group B. It's going to be bizarre. It's going to be bashful, maybe. It's going to be beautiful. And we have a reasonably clean start. Certainly clean start for Rob Jacobs, and up towards Remus we head for the first time. Riley is under a lot of pressure already. Aiden Chase under a huge amount of pressure. He's got two Pro-Am category drivers flanking him from either side. Mark Pacheco had a little bit of a look up the inside line. Can't get it done because he needs to defend and actually overtake Riley Nicholson, and he has done so. So Riley has moved back into P4. Jackson Dean still holding on to P5. Bob Massey in P6, a great start for everyone. And this is going to be great for Rob Jacobs. He sees a little bit of a gap evolving in the background. We do have Mark Hasseldine getting a little bit pressured by Bob Massey, who's held, oh, sorry, that's the opposite way around. Bob Massey under pressure from Mark Hasseldine, with Jackson Dean falling towards where Bob Massey is. So it's not really the most comfortable start for our Pro-Am category leader right now. And Bob Massey, Super Bob, is on an early charge. Aiden Chase yet again finds himself under pressure from Mark Pacheco, who's gone round. Big spin, and that is the 773 off in the gravel. Mark Pacheco finds himself in the reset bucket. So he's been reset back onto the track. He's not actually last. Blue Dog takes that title, but for how long? Not long. Blue Dog comes on past, and Mark Pacheco, he is in the top 3 of the Pro-Am category standings. That is a disaster, Nick.
That is a hammer blow for Mark Pacheco. He got the jump over Water Arrows, Riley Nicholson, and he was about to put the move on Aiden Chase going into turn 9, but just a snap of oversteer on the exit of Worth Corner, and he just lost the rear end. He caught on the curb there. Whether the curb is actually a bit moist, because we did report early in the broadcast, there is a little bit of moisture in the air. Maybe it's actually hit the track. So is the curb wet? I'm not so sure, because if the curb is wet, he must have caught it, and that's what spun him out there, George. So unlucky, because he got 2 places ahead of Jackson Dean, and he was the man on the charts. He was actually really the one that was actually going to catch Rob Jacobs, because Rob Jacobs is now 1.5 seconds clear of this battle pack for P2. Aiden Chase holding the inside line, and we have Nicholson trying to hold it around the outside. Car 10 of the CP Motorsports Lamborghini Hurricane. Can he hold it around the outside, which leads to the inside through turns 5 into turn 6? Can he throw the car on the inside? He does, but he still can't get it to move done, so they still holds on to P3. Well done to Aiden.
Whoa, big moment for Mark Hasseldine. He's had a huge tank slapper there on the exit of Rouch, but he does manage to hold on. Hasselone Motorsports being told, I think, no team orders today. Go racing. And of course, that order coming directly from Mark Hasseldine, and he's the one battling Jackson Dean right now. Yeah, certainly a few moments there for the number 10 as well. Riley, he's here and there. I think there is still some water, Nick, out on the track, because we have a water surface moisture level of 20% out on track right now.
Yeah, so that must have been the case then. So maybe there's a bit too much water on the curb, and that's what caught Mark Pacheco. And we can see a car in the pit lane. He's actually facing the wrong direction. Obviously, I'm not so sure what happened. We'll cut to that later on to see who that was. We maybe go to our pit lane reporter, Nando Scott, to see who that was. But now we've got a juicy battle pack. 2 cars, 3 cars, and there's another Hasselone Motorsport that wants to get involved there. Who's going to come out on top? It is Jackson Dean, 2 for 1. For the championship leader for the Pro-Am. And Mark Hasseldine is going to come by and say, I'm going to join my teammate as well. But not just yet. The leader of AMP class, Aiden Chase, is now under pressure from Mark Hasseldine. They're going to go 3 wide into turn 4. Aiden closes the door on Mark Hasseldine. This is some great racing, boys. This is what we love to see. And Mark Pacheco, they're going to go 3 wide through turn 5. Wow, this is incredible moves being made here. Aiden Chase is like, get me out of here.
Water Arrows done a Checo Perez, I tell you what.
Yeah, he certainly has. What a 5-way battle we have just had there. Big winner of that, Jackson Dean with a double overtake. Mark Hasseldine follows him on through. Hasselone Motorsports, P2 and P3 overall in this race, and they are P1 in AM class, because Aiden Chase has been beaten out of that position. Now in P2, Bob Massey, Super Bob, on a charge, wants to get involved in the scrum that is happening from P2 down to P6. And Water Arrow, really, I think the big loser on that one, Ando.
Yeah, he was looking like a winner for a little bit there, but that's not the way it played out. But I tell you what, old Rob Jacobs is the big winner out of all of that. He's checked out.
Yeah, he's gone. He's about 3.5 seconds ahead of Mark Hasseldine.
He's got a paddling.
Oh, a 1 second too. So that's probably a little bit too much track extension on the exit of turn 1. It's very easy to do there. You catch too much of the curb on the inside. It actually pushes the car wide onto that AstroTurf, while you might actually gain an advantage there. Unfortunately, the FIA said, unfortunately, that's a 1 second next to your name. And 1 second here, as we can see, Water Arrows in Riley Nicholson stand the car on Jackson Dean. That was a beautiful textbook move there for Water Arrows in Riley Nicholson, almost getting his name wrong there, but he's done really well to get up to P3, and he's put the move on the championship leader there, George. So that's quite an authoritative move there on the championship leader.
Well, that's absolutely massive, and what's even more massive is Mark Hasseldine is currently in P2 in this race, leading AM class. Are we about to see a back-to-back potential victory in overall P1? Because Rob Jacobs has served that penalty, so he's in a bit of trouble. He's not liking the conditions at the moment. That said, the track surface moisture has reduced itself to 0 at the moment. So unless we see some more rain later on in this race, which is entirely possible, it is dry weather racing from now on, racing mediums for Jackson Dean. But Mark Hasseldine is going very quickly. He's got the fastest lap, a 1 minute 30.473. Rob Jacobs, I don't think has matched that pace, or not exactly that pace, because it's not going to be a fastest lap for him this time round. This is absolutely fantastic. Right now, Rob Jacobs is in the box seat, needs to limit those mistakes because Mark Hasseldine is quick today. Water Arrow, of course, as well, doing a great bit of overtaking. These guys have been throwing the book of overtaking and defending at each other for the last 4.5 laps.
And the top 6 are running away. The top 6 are really close to each other. Obviously, with the exception of Rob Jacobs, is actually keeping that gap between himself and Mark Hasseldine. So 2nd to 5th are really close to each other. So any mistakes that happens, these guys are ready to pounce. And Bob Massey sends the car onto the inside line, gets the move done on Aiden Chase, but it's a little bit of a questionable move there, unfortunately, by Bob Massey. See what the stewards think on that. A little bit late and aggressive, maybe a bit of moving onto the brakes for Aiden Chase. We're not so sure. We'll have to find out on the post stream to see what happened between those two. But we're a little bit decisive there, a little bit dicey now. It's as we always know, this lobby to be a very exciting lobby, but it can also be a lobby where there's a lot of ambition and sometimes not a lot of reward. We saw a lot of reward in the opening couple of laps there, but a couple of moves like that comes a bit questionable.
Yep. Well, we saw Bob Massey take his inaugural win last time at Nordschleife. He's the first time we've seen AM Class take an overall P1 win as well. Super Bob there, though. That move, I have to admit, was a little bit of a blunt tool action, somewhat like a hammer, Bob the Builder. And it is raining out on track. This is a massive change in the weather. Okay, everyone is on the racing mediums and racing softs at the moment, and they are all going to have to seriously think about what this rain does for their race.
This is going to throw some spice here, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. Here, the top 6 still running away. Rob Jacobs still leads it. Mark Hasseldine, the leader of AM Class. The wipers are on, and you can see the downpour. It is bucketing down so far in these early stages. So the cars are going to be, the track's going to clean up quite quickly. So the track, all the rubber that's been laid down in Lobby A, in Group A, is all going to be now going to be gone, unfortunately, with all this with all this rain on the track. So see what some of the drivers do, because there's a couple of packs there. You've got a pack for P2, P3, and then you've got a battle pack for P5, and then you've got the battle pack between Jack Finch all the way down towards I believe that's going to be 12th, 13th place there. So it's some battle packs brewing, but who's going to blink?
Well, this is the question. Drive by does Rob Jacobs of the pit lane. Channeling my inner Yoda right now, but yes, driving by the pit lane. Rob Jacobs not going to come in. No one is coming in at the moment. Everyone's still braving it out there. It is less than 33% surface moisture right now, so the soft compound tires and the medium compound tires are still manageable at this stage. The question is how much more rain is going to come down. Andrew Scott, let's go over to you for some analysis on the situation. Rain, truly a hammer in the windmill, as I said before.
I was going to use that term.
Oh.
I went off. I was saving that, you bugger. But anyway, stop raining it has, to channel my inner Yoda. Stop raining it has, so the conditions will not get any worse. So I think they've all made the right decision here to stay out on their slicks, and they should be fine. But Rob Jacobs in the box seat, guys, because he's on mediums, and they're showing very little wear whatsoever. He's got a great amount of fuel remaining. So compared to Mark Hasseldine behind him, he's got much better tyres and much better fuel.
Yeah, and the rain has stopped actually, because now the wipers are off. So, but it just must have been like a bit of a pour. It must have been just a little bit of a downpour that's just gone by quite quickly.
Well, listen to me, don't. I said raining. Stop raining it has. What bit of stop raining it has? Don't you understand? Come on. Don't you talk Yoda?
I haven't caught up with my Star Wars in the past 24 hours, so I do apologize.
Both Andrew Scott and myself are very much Yodas from Wish.com. We are not the genuine article by any measure or measure of the imagination whatsoever. But yes, indeed, Hasseldine Mark, drive does he turn through it. No, you know, I'm just going to not do it. He's got the fastest lap right now. He's not on the same pace. Rob Jacobs is not on the same pace as it. He's gaining a lot, but he is on the racing softs. The earlier pit stop, I think, for Mark Hasselden potentially.
Yeah, and I think he's going to cross over with Rob Jacobs soon anyway. So, you know, he's got less fuel, and Rob Jacobs' tyres are barely worn at all. So, you know, iPhone Doc a la Rob Jacobs really is sitting in the box seat right now.
Yeah, as we look down towards the rest of the field, we can see that Jackson Dean is still holding on to P4. He's actually got quite a good gap over him and Bob Massey in P5, but Bob Massey's still holding on. The AM driver sitting P2 overall in class, but he's still putting on some spectacular performances. A 31.4 is his fastest lap, so not as fast as what Mark Hasselden is running, and he's actually also on the soft tyres too, so he's just getting a little bit held up through the aero wash of that BMW. But looking down the rest of the field, the pole man and the man that started P2 overall, Aiden Chase, P3 now, unfortunately got involved in that massive battle pack that we almost saw 3 waves. We see yellow flags up ahead. That unfortunately looks like to be Graham Splint for CP Motorsports car 6. Unfortunately, just not the time that he's having in this season here in 2024. Unfortunate for him to be down there and having a bit of a spin around. But then we also go down to Jack Finch. We haven't seen this name show up in a little while for MotorMotion E-Series. It's actually good to see him back there. He's P4 overall in the AM class, so he's done a really good job there to hold the likes of Mitch Cullen and Rick Atwell in 9th place. But now we have Mark Pacheco has actually gone past Rick Atwell into 9th, and then we have Maverick inside the top 10. So Mark Pacheco, this is all the drive. This is the drive that he needs to do. He just needs to come back. He needs to fight back. And actually, because these battle packs have been closing up, George, and they are very quiet, they are closely packed, he's actually able to, you know, make inroads. He's actually not. He's not actually losing too much time from what we first initially expected.
No, but he does have damage on the front of that car, so it's not just Mark Pacheco. For Gridline Racing, he's had problems today. It is also Ricky Rick, all of them trying to get past Blue Dog, who is getting blue flagged at the moment already in this race. And Blue Dog is on the intermediate tyres, Andrew. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, he was one of the 2 that started on Inters, so there was a gamble and it didn't work out for him. Yeah.
No, I mean, look, if you get to start on the intermediate tyres, you need to know that there's going to be rain for at least 20 minutes. Unfortunately for them, that is not the case
rain
today.
dance wasn't good enough. Yeah,
it wasn't at all.
He
needed a soundboard, is what he needed. Then Richard Robinson, of course, in the number 20 car.
Sorry.
We're gonna find some more Finding Nemo references for us all as well. What is the volcano of bubbles or something like that? Anyway, let's talk about Jeff Bruin, because he's got damage as well on the racing soft tyres, so maybe not the most ideal start back to driving for Jeff Bruin, and I think this is a great opportunity. We usually have to say nice things about him, but he's on the track now, so we can say whatever we want.
Exactly.
Within the limit.
132s. Get better soon, Jeff. Come on. You're doing 132s, mate. Come on.
He's running some good pace, especially on a car that's been that's quite heavily damaged on the front splitter, and the left-hand suspension has collapsed on the Fusion Race Engineering Mercedes. Still holding on very nicely, but he's a fair way back behind Richard Robinson. So he's pretty much like over a corner behind the Black Rose Racing drivers. So a lot of work to do. Not the return that he wanted, unfortunately. So could have been better days for Jeff Bruin. But down in 13th as well, Troy Britnell. This is a bit of an interesting one there, just down in 13th place. So this has to be unfortunately, it looks like the Lightning Motorsport Audis are not working. We saw it with Luke Stone, and now it looks like it's happening with Troy Britnell. Mitch Cullen is running quite nicely. Is actually leading the charge with the Lightning Motorsports Audi R8, but for the team, they're really in struggle street this round.
Yeah, they are. The R8 for the Lightning Motorsport outfit just not gelling with this track at all, and even at the Nordschleife, they weren't looking particularly hot either. But yeah, today, I mean, Troy Britnell will be absolutely gutted that his team is in this state. Must have got something wrong early on. Their practice maybe didn't go quite the way that they had hoped it did. Nonetheless, still a valiant effort from the Lightning Motorsport team. Humecorp seemed to work it out, and I do wonder if there's just there's maybe a trick to it with how the accelerator works with the R8 around a track like this. I mean, it is a tricky track. There is a lot of acceleration control that is required at a circuit like this, especially at turn 1 GT3 and of course down the hill through Schlossgold. It's a tricky track to get absolutely spot on, and maybe it's just one of those things where the Hooncorp drivers have just found that groove, whilst the Lightning's Motorsport guys haven't. Speaking of Hooncorp Esports, Rob Jacobs still leading, but the margin has closed in significantly, and Mark Hasseldine is right there.
Ooh. Yeah, he's having a go. But as I said before, his fuel and tyres aren't anywhere near as good as Rob Jacobs. And it is somewhat questionable whether he's going to get to that one-stop window or not. This one's going to be interesting, guys. Yeah,
I think he could. I think he could actually make that one stop, because it's 16. We're just about to go 17 minutes into this race. We have to remember Lewis Atkinson came into the pit lane just with over 20 minutes before he actually had to jump onto the medium tyres to finish off his stint. But we also do know that the BMW is very thirsty on the fuel tank, so I feel like he needs to get to potentially 23, maybe 22, 23 minutes if he can make the fuel tank last. And he's actually going purple. He's going fast. Gentlemen, like we saw Super Bob go for it at Nordschleife. Are we going to see a fast Mark come through?
I don't know, because Rob Jacobs is so good on fuel and so good on tyres. Like, he's going to go really long on the mediums here. So if he can be that plug in the hole of, if he can be that hammer in the windmill of Mark Hasseldine's race now, if he can defend well and keep him behind him, he's still going to stay in the box seat, because he's got track position and he's got so much more fuel.
And like, it's a different strategy. It's a different strategy to his elite teammate in Lewis. Whoa. So it's something. Whoa, a bit of a snap there.
Yeah, that's right. He's gone reverse. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, this is going to be.
He got into the lead at the start of the race on mediums, which Dirty did, but he got overtaken, didn't he?
He did, yeah. Dirty got overtaken,
to stay in front,
and fell back to P2. But yeah, with the clean air in front, I mean, he gets to manage that fuel on those tyres even more. I would be very surprised if he pits anywhere close to the halfway mark. He might even try and extend to 30 minutes, which is to his benefit. That could work. It'll be an opposite strategy for Hasseldine. Hasseldine, if he might end up getting him in the pit window. That's entirely possible, depending on how much fuel is required from Mark Hasseldine.
I think he's going to overcut him. So Jacobs is going to go long. He's going to overcut him. He's going to increase his gap, because he's going to have so much less fuel to take on board.
Yeah, and that's going to pay dividends. We talked about this earlier. 4 litres a second. So if you can save 8 litres, it is 2 seconds in the pit stop. There is Water Arrow. He's had a moment at Remus, and the CP Motorsports number 10 car has found his way deep into the barrier. Luckily, not with too much force. So no damage on the car, but boy, oh boy, that's cost him a bunch. He's now behind Jackson Dean. He's behind Bob Massey. Now got Aiden Chase chasing after him, unironically. But that's massive, because Riley Nicholson was really on for a good result here today.
Look at the train that Aiden Chase is forming between himself all the way down there, and look who's in that. Mark Pacheco is about to start clawing his way through. Aiden Chase looks like he's about to lose that position to Mitch Collin. They're going to go side by side through Rouch at turn 6, but they're still holding it on to turn 7 as they go through Worth. Throws the car down the inside. A little bit of contact made between Mitch Collin and Aiden Chase, but that's the move done for Mitch Collin. Mark Pacheco there, ready to pounce. He's got the move done on Aiden Chase. It is a comeback drive for Mark Pacheco here. Well done, and nice. Where there's a switchback move there. Going to go through the turn.
Oh my goodness! It's a massive accident. It's a massive accident. Pacheco has been sent properly into the wall, and I can't even find him. He's been kicked out of the game as a result of the impact that he's just incurred. He got sent sideways. The rear end got touched by Aiden Chase. He got sent across the pit lane entry into the barrier. That must have been a 5 or 6G impact at minimum. And Pacheco
is disconnected.
Out, and the leader is disconnected too. So something massive has happened on the server. No more Rob Jacobs in the game at all. Rob Jacobs and Mark Pacheco are totally gone. And Jackson Dean is in P2. Mark Hasseldine is leading this race as the M class.
And remember, the 2 contenders in this you got to remember, the 2 contenders in the Pro-Am Championship needed these points. 1.5 seconds to Mark Hasseldine. The 2 contenders in this Pro-Am Championship, ladies and gentlemen. Rob Jacobs, Mark Pacheco, DNFs next to their name, 0 points next to the name, George. This is going into the hands of Hassel One Motorsport for both Mark Hasseldine and Jackson Dean to seal the titles tonight.
This is
That's
massive.
brutal. That's
Absolutely
brutal.
brutal is a
brutal.
word. Critical is a word. It is absolute disaster because this is the round that they needed desperately to fight back against Jackson Dean. If they can't do it here, 2 rounds is just not enough time to do it. We may have a team's title and one of our categories sealed and dealt tonight, and that is a massive, massive, massive problem for those two. Massive commiserations, because you hate to see it. You really do. It is the unfortunate side of sim racing in an online digital world, and that is that disconnects do happen. The fact that it's happened to both of the championship rivals for Jackson Dean, Rob Jacobs and Mark Pacheco in the space of about 5 seconds is absolutely unbelievable. Mark Hasseldine's got a 1.5 second penalty, not going to matter given where he's at, and he's got his Minister of Defence, Jackson Dean, here to defend that P1 position for him. Hassel 1 couldn't be in a better spot here. There is no proverbial pumpkin in the lathe right now, gentlemen.
Wow, that is a huge shock, and I just want to see what Ando thinks about what could have happened to Mark Pacheco. Obviously, there was a huge crash there. Obviously, it looks like I think the game reset himself there, but that was a huge. I mean, it was like, I don't think it was much of a pit maneuver. I think what Pacheco was trying to do, he was trying to get back onto the track, so he didn't actually get a penalty next to his name, but he just didn't see Aiden was next to him, and he didn't realize that he was doing a switchback move on Mark Pacheco. So I think there was a little bit of mistiming there, and it's just a pit maneuver, unfortunately, and then that led to a whole cluster of cars on the final corner at Red Bull Mobile.
Yeah, and it went on all the way down the pit straight as well. But of course, I don't think it was anything intentional. But the end result was, I think Pacheco ended up shunted into the pits, I think, and maybe then the team said, let's just park it, mate. This race is over.
Well,
Well,
the
which is
impact
understandable.
The impact was actually with the barrier that cuts off the track from the pit lane entry. So he went straight into a concrete barrier at full speed, sideways.
Ouch.
Yeah, so that would have been a significant amount of damage to repair in that pit stop, and the fact that he already had to pit early, or he already got shunted to the back of the pack anyway, didn't he? So the team might have said, look, we've got too much damage here, let's just park it.
Wow, that is not the way that you want to end a run for a category championship, and that also has a big impact on the points. Gridline Racing losing one of their drivers here today, Mark Pacheco, who's been in the position for such good results, top 3 almost consistently throughout the entire season. Those points would have gone a long way in the team's championship.
Yeah, and you know what? That would have handed second place to Cooke. Would have been a lay-down misère.
But remember as well, gentlemen,
Rob Jacobs has disconnected.
Rob Jacobs DC'd as well. So it's actually, who knows? It could actually balance itself out, because we do have another Cooke Esports on the track at the moment. I think from memory, I can't remember who one of the drivers for Cooke is, but we do actually have Rick and Rick Atwell. He's running the numbers for Gridline Racing, the sole driver for Gridline Racing here in Lobby B. So
he's in 5th,
and he's running up in
That's
P5.
Good points.
So far, so good. Obviously, drivers have come into the pit lane, but if he sits inside that top 7, top 8, it could be a salvageable race for Gridline.
Yes,
Yeah,
however, I will.
But he hasn't.
Well, go ahead.
But he
Sorry,
hasn't
Andrew.
pitted yet. Sorry, yeah, he hasn't pitted yet, so he's going to go down. So that damage that he's carrying right now, he's been obviously carrying for a while. He's doing 31s, 32s, which is not setting the world on fire. So he's going to drop down, but he might be able to pit and then come back and salvage some points here for Gridline.
He may be able to. I will just remind us, though, that Lewis Atkinson, with that win for Cooke Esports in Group A, brings home a tally for Cooke this time that is not going to be matched no matter what Ricky Rick does, no matter where Dan Wood had finished P7 for him, so not a lot of points going to Gridline Racing's way. And even without the fact that we've got Rob Jacobs for Hooncorp and Mark Pacheco both out of this race, that points haul for Lewis Atkinson becomes a huge moment in the team's championship.
Ouch.
Yeah. Gridline
okay.
was in second, I think. They were in second. So
We'll
they had
find
a
out in
little
due
bit of
time.
points. They had a few points in hand.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
yeah, time will tell.
But I'm sure there's a whole influx of cars coming through your pit lane now, Ando. You can see some of the drivers coming in. Mitch Collin running on the best fuel numbers we've seen so far in this race, 12 litres next to his name, so a lot of fuel saving done for Mitch Collin. Jackson Dean still holds on to the provisional race lead, yet to come into the pit lane, but changing those mediums to soft tyres. And he's going to have a nice fast finish to complete his one and only pit stop. Mark Hasseldine is still the initial leader of the race as he's waiting for his teammate to make that pit stop. And then Riley Nicholson coming out of the pit lane just behind Bob Massey in P3 overall. So Bob Massey on the run of 4 so far, P3 overall on the soft tyres as well. And what am I seeing here? Bob Massey is now back on the race, is still on the racing medium tyres.
Nope,
Obviously,
racing softs.
Okay, so Bob Massey on the racing softs. I feel like Riley Nicholson is back on the racing medium.
He
So
is, yes.
Yeah.
so it looks like the soft tires doesn't really seem to be working for the Lamborghini, as demonstrated with Matt Donetti. Apologies. I don't know. Maybe
He might come back at him though.
he'll have to come. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. He's going to come back later on. Obviously, the first few laps, Bob Massey will run away, but he might be able to reel him in at the end of this race. So Jackson Dean now finally in the pit lane, who's about to hand the race lead to his team boss and teammate in Mark Hasseldine.
Wow,
Or will he?
fantastic.
Or
well,
will he?
I
That
think
was a good in lap.
it was a good in lap. We shall see. We'll
Yeah.
keep a very close eye on it. Just before we see that, though, I do have to report at the end of round 7 Nordschleife, Hooncorp Esports were ahead of Gridline Racing by over 25 points. So there's in fact, it's more. It's 26 points actually. So that's actually massive for the team's championship, and I think it actually, well, it certainly puts Hooncorp at a massive advantage as we head towards the last 2 rounds.
Indeed.
And Mark Hasseldine has made his way out on track ahead of Jackson Dean. So the order between the two Hassel 1 cars certainly stays as it is. Racing softs, of course, for Mark Hasseldine, full fuel. Racing softs for Jackson Dean. Didn't take a full tank because he doesn't need it, because we've only got 22 minutes left in this race.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and if they're smart, they'll probably leave. They'll probably leave the multi-2-1 order like this, wouldn't they? That'll be more points for the team. Well,
More
not
points
that
for the
they need.
team, and also
for
right now,
or
Mark
Dave.
Hasseldine needs more help in his championship fight than Jackson Dean does, I believe.
Yeah, because it's more points. It's more points for the amateur driver, who's actually well ahead of the rest of the pro-am drivers. So these are bonus points that he's actually accumulating next to his name. So sitting P1, he's gaining so many points, including on those unfortunate retirements from Rob Jacobs and Mark Pacheco. So if Jackson Dean is the wise head, and we know he's a very respectable driver here in Season 2 of the Player 1 Sim Gear GT3 Championship, he knows that he can help his teammate in the best way possible and actually keep him up front and try and defend the likes of Bob Massey. As we see Graham Splint going for a bit of a different approach to pit lane. Obviously not intentional there, but unfortunately that's the way it is. But it's Bob Massey against Water Arrows and Riley Nicholson. This is going to be nice to watch between these two. The AM driver versus the Pro-Am driver. This is going to be fun.
That's right, and I do have to redact what I just said before. Jackson Dean has a smaller lead over Rob Jacobs than Mark Hasseldine has over Troy Britnell. Mark Hasseldine is all but set to win AM class, even with the extra points. It doesn't really make a huge difference, but maybe these extra points, by putting Hasseldine ahead, will just be enough to tip them over the mathematical point at which they win the team's title today, which I think we are on for absolutely today.
Yeah, but do they put the team first or Jackson Dean first? Because,
well, that's a good question, but Jackson Dean, with the lead he's got at the moment, even with second place, puts him to nearly 100 points clear of Rob Jacobs and Mark Pacheco.
Oof. Okay.
Yeah, so
two rounds to go. And
So yeah, this is a good problem to have, isn't it?
absolutely. This is why we
like
love this
in
kind
the
of lobby.
teams and the drivers, they're sitting pretty
Yeah.
in the whole lot of them, aren't they? So, but just whether they swap positions now or not, that is the question, isn't it?
But the thing is that do they really need to swap positions? Because yes, obviously Jackson Dean could potentially win the overall the race here tonight. Obviously with sitting P1 in class but P2 overall, a few extra points can help Mark Hasseldine seal the championship for himself as well as get the team's championship for Hassel One Motorsport. But they've got a big gap over Bob Massey and Riley Nicholson and Mitch Collins, so they can do whatever they want. They could do as they please.
They
So
can.
they've got one and two sealed.
Yeah, Jackson Dean's got much better tyres than Mark Hasseldine. So I think they're going to come together at the end, well and truly. But if Jackson Dean finishes second overall, he still gets first place in his category, right?
Correct. Yeah,
So
he doesn't lose any points.
There's
no
reason for him to overtake him. So yeah, they're just gonna, if they know what's good for them, they'll just leave it like this.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I have spoken to Jackson Dean and Hasseldine, and I have had some confirmation that they have been telling themselves, look, whatever happens, we go racing. So if it comes to overtaking, we're allowed to battle on track because they're feeling very comfortable where they are in the team's title, and both of them in their respective categories too. So if they do end up, coming closer together on track, there won't be any team orders getting in the way, from what I've been told. But you never really know. See what happens. They don't need to do anything as it is, as you said before. Problem, good to have.
Yeah, I think that's what they said to Senna and Prost, didn't they? Back in 1980. Yeah,
I'm sure the Hassel One team would appreciate the comparison there between that, of course, very famous championship-winning team, both drivers, two drivers, very quick, very spicy. Don't think you'll find too many hard opinions though between Jackson Dean and Hasseldine.
Absolutely. But as we go through the rest of the field there, obviously we are keeping our eyes on the top two, who are the Hassel One Motorsport drivers, and Mark Hasseldine, Jackson Dean, Bob Massey, and then Riley Nicholson. Mitch Cole in a quiet race for Lightning Motorsport, sitting P5 overall on the medium tyres, so he knows those softs aren't going to make the distance. So he's played it safe and running on those mediums, and a nice bit of fuel in the car to hold on to P5, potentially get himself on the podium. In the Pro-Am class, with Madrick and Ricky Rick in 6th place, looking to get himself on the podium for the AM class as well. Peter sitting P6 nicely there. Aiden Chase, what could have been for Astor Racing? What could have been for this man? Starting on pole position, P2, and just those opening few laps there, George, got really caught up as he drifts away through turn 4. He got really caught up, and I think he was maybe a little bit. He may have been a little bit flustered of what was going on there. Just cars left, right, cars behind him, cars in front of him, like so slowing up, and a couple of decisive moves there on drivers that made the move on him. I think may have just shook him a little bit, and that's why he's just running a little bit further down the pack than what we normally saw him in the early stages of the race. And then Jack Finch, Richard Robertson, and Jeff Bruin running up inside the top 10, with Troy Britnell holding on to 11th place and Graham Splint in 12th place. And unfortunately, with the DNFs from Rob Jacobs, who was leading the race very comfortably at the beginning, and also Mark Pacheco with that massive accident on the pit wall. But yeah, going back to Aiden Chase, I think that just may have been the case there, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And a couple of penalties around the grid too. Jeff Broom with a 0.5 second penalty, and also Graham Splint with a 0.5 second penalty. Meanwhile, out front, Hasseldine hustling the car towards the end of this race. Weather is looking fairly stable.
Good on him.
He's still got he's got the fastest lap on lap 21, a 129.8, which is actually very, very good pace. It's within a second of the fastest lap we saw from Dan Wood in Group A. So the pace is very good from Mark Hasseldine. I think he feels very at home here. That, or he's being driven by the motivation of the fact that his team is about to win a team's championship standing in a GT3 championship season. That is massive. I recall last season he wasn't in this position with his team. I recall through the TCR seasons, also not great results through there. This is a fantastic bounce back for the entire team. And Mark Hasselden will be absolutely stoked with this, and he's driving the socks off that car like there's no tomorrow. I think they'll be partying till there's no tomorrow. As I said before, I did see a very large champagne bottle being wheeled into the Hassel 1 Motorsports garage, so I suspect a big party here for the Hassel 1 team today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, as we know, this GT3 championship, it is the second tier category, of course, to the TCR championship at MotorMotion, of which Cooke has dominated for the last 3 seasons.
My bias alarm has gone off. My bias alarm has gone off here. Red flags in the commentary box.
Okay.
No, please continue.
Yeah, but this is a real feather in their bow for this team. The fact that they've dominated both divisions and the team's points table, and they're able to get it done with 2 rounds to go. That's quite astonishing.
Yep, absolutely. And as we say as well, they've got 3 drivers that are actually, the leaders of their class. So you have to think back to Mick Hill as well. Ooh, it looks like he's run wide on the exit of Worth there, so that might be a penalty going towards Mark Hasselden, unfortunately. But they are leading 3 championships, drivers' championships, with Mick Hill, Jackson Dean, and Mark Hasselden. Unfortunately, the inconsistencies in the elite class, unfortunately, hasn't been able to give that position. But it's not enough. But it's more than enough for them to actually, bring home a team's title. Oh wow, fastest lap there, 29.7. He went for it, and in a track extension penalty, he's like, you know what? I don't care. I'll throw the rule books at me. I just want to set a fastest lap, and he's done that very well. So
really wants to open the champagne bottle.
He's trying to finish this race as quickly as he can, so he can just have a party. But I have to give full credit to them. They are such a great organization, and obviously, and I think as well, I always never like to say it, but when it comes to the way that the best way that they make their cars fast and possible is through the livery design. I have to say it in a way that the liveries that these guys post, and it's like a bit of the artist side of me. These guys make fantastic liveries. The Jim Beam Honey sponsored livery that they had on the Mazda TCR cars, that was one of the best looking cars I've actually seen on the TCR grid. And these cars as well, and the BMWs, paying homage to the Fanatec GT classes that we see with WRT, just very similar colors to what they run. So very good to see some, a good livery designer means a fast car, which probably is going to be leading to some big money for the livery editor.
It's worth half a second a lap, surely, a good livery.
Absolutely. Well, the red on it, easy. the red gives it, that little bit of flair and a bit of speed.
If only that worked for Ferrari and Formula 1.
Absolutely. Oh, the wipers are on again. We do see a couple of.
Yeah, so we might be seeing a little bit of a change. Turns out there's a tiny bit of rain coming across the track at turn 9 and turn 10. And looks like turn 1 as well, so the wind very quickly blowing that across the track, 2.1 meters per second. So not the fastest wind we've ever seen. It's a headwind into turn 1 as well in the pit straight, so not the best top speed through that section. But a little bit of rain towards the end of this race could be set to mix it up. That's a lot of rain. That is a significant amount of rain at turn 3. That's actually totally different conditions around the track. So turn 3 turns out is where the rain is actually coming down in the majority. So I think there's a band of rain coming slowly across the track. We might have had a drizzle that slightly missed most of the circuit, or it's as a residual impact of turn 3. So yeah, this is now started to get really difficult. We've still got 10 minutes in this race, Nick, and with rain coming down at the moment, there may be some of these drivers thinking, is it enough to consider switching onto a wet compound tire? I don't think it's enough. It's not at 33% moisture just yet, so I think it's good just to hold on.
Yeah, and I think you can see there, Mark has actually just taken a little bit of a cautious approach through turns 6 and 7. You can see that he's actually stayed off the curbs there, so a little bit of moisture, a little bit of water on the curbs there. Actually, that was with Jackson Dean, apologies there. He's going through the curbs there. Just taking a little bit easy there. These drivers are, trying to run to their conditions, and they're not really pushing much, and they're doing really well. So they managed to hold on to these conditions, and it's not heavy enough there. The wipers are on, but there's not a lot of rain. There's a little bit of mist around the clouds there, but it's a nice run there by Riley Nicholson. A great run there from Riley Nicholson. Gets the power down on that Lamborghini Hurricane. About to make the move on Bob Massey. Super Bob around the outside goes Bob Massey, and inside goes Riley Nicholson. Gets the job done. and that is him up to P3. P2 is still in class, but what can Bob Massey do? He's got a bit of a compromise on the exit of turn 1, but can he throw the car down the inside? It's a little bit damp coming up the hill through Remus, but can he send the car? He sends the car down the inside. Can he get it pulled up? And it looks like he's about to get it done. And this is going to be some classic racing between these two, Riley Nicholson and Bob Massey, the AM driver versus Pro-Am, as they go down, barreling down towards turn 4. Who's going to get the job done around the inside? Will it be the inside for Bob Massey? Will it be the outside for Riley Nicholson? And it's the inside line for Bob Massey. Some great racing between these two. Wow.
That was a brilliant sequence there, and Bob Massey, Super Bob, really good work there. Allowed it to happen, of course, into turn 1. There was a beautiful overtake by Riley Nicholson, who's just had a little moment on the exit of Rouch there, but nothing really coming of it as a result. But that was a beautiful sequence of overtaking and defending by the both of them. Really good driving, especially in these conditions where the grip is really kind of not there 100%.
There's a little bit, I just saw a little bit of a damp patch there through turns 9 and 10, so a little bit dark there through those corners. But Super Bob, take a bow. What a move through Remus. He was actually quite a fair way back as well, George, and he actually managed to get the car pulled up on Riley Nicholson and made the move stick. But it looks like now Nicholson has actually got a much better run through turn 1 compared to Bob Massey. Gives him a little bit of a bump there, so a little bit of a bump draft. But this could lead to an opportunity to send the Lamborghini to the inside line, get squeezed onto the inside line. Not much room given there, and it's going to get squeezed on the apex there. Wow, some nice driving there, but a bit of an unfortunate compromise. His exit there is going to hold the inside line again, bumping is Nicholson on Bob Massey, but he's now going to try and see if he can get the car on the inside line and see if he can actually pull up the Lamborghini Huracan. Struggles on the brakes there. Bob Massey, wow, this is some great driving from the AM driver, but it's still going on here, George.
This is
Uncle
very
Bob's
clever.
In trouble. He's in trouble though. He's on soft.
Okay, so that's probably why. But I will also just point out very quickly, Bob Massey with the cutback directly into the apex really covers off any kind of lunge that Riley Nicholson can do. Even if he lunges on the brakes, well, there's already a car right in front of him into the braking zone, so some really sharp attacking angles into the apex with Bob Massey is a really clever way of keeping a Lamborghini behind you. But as Ando has said, there's a struggle on tires. Yeah, the racing softs not looking healthy at all, Ando, and it's getting closer and closer. What a great battle though.
Yeah, no, Watero's he's gonna cruise past him at some point here once he works out that Massey's on an inferior tire now. So he just needs to hold back, get a good run out of a corner, and turn 1 there's not it. But if he maybe turn 3, if he gets just hangs back a bit, gets a good run out of it, he will cruise past Uncle Bob, unfortunately.
Here we go into turn 3. Let's see what happens this time. No attempt at the inside send.
Here we go.
By Riley Nicholson, but it's a good run through that corner, and Bob Massey has compromised himself quite a bit. Will he hold the outside line like he did last lap? We shall see. There's no overlap yet by the Lamborghini, so the Mercedes getting a reasonable drive out of turn 3 despite taking a very shallow line. Now defensive line runs deep.
That's way too deep.
That is battle over for the moment.
Irene.
Damn, I was looking forward to seeing Bob Massey having another bit more masterclass. But he tries to throw the nose on the inside. I think he just knows that those tires are shot, and he's got no chance now to try and get past water arrows. He's only got a couple more opportunities, but I feel like now he's just overdrive. The tires are overheating, and he's just sliding the car, braking too late, and I think that's the battle done, unfortunately. So that's not P3 overall for Bob Massey. But then again, it's such a superb drive by Bob Massey. Ricky Rick and Mitch Collin having a nice battle there. So while we see one battle for done and dusted, another one, George, is brewing.
And it's between a racing softs in front and a racing mediums behind. So we've seen what happens. And unfortunately for Bob Massey, the soft tyres just at their limit with still 5 minutes to go. I suspect that there's going to be a similar situation here, Ando.
Yeah, Madwick's tyres are a little bit better. But Mitch Collins' tyres are way better. So neither of them have a fuel problem. They're both absolutely full send right now. But let's see what Madwick can do with a bit of racecraft and a little bit of wise defending / blocking. It's a fine line, isn't it? But if you aggressively defend here, you could be able to keep this R8 behind you.
Might be able to. I think there's a little flash on the lights there from Mitch Collin. Not particularly happy what's just happened into Remus, where Madrick was very slow on the apex, forced a big send on the brakes for Mitch Collin into the apex just to avoid hitting the rear end. So maybe thinking that Madrick is not driving particularly friendly, but it's totally within the rules at the moment from Madrick, and he's going to have to be aggressive, as Andrew's just alluded to. If he's not aggressive on the defending, well, he will lose this position pretty much immediately, just like we saw with Bob Massey. You did an incredible job trying to hold on, but as soon as he went too deep to the brake, one mistake, and that's it. Water Arrow said,
yeah,
that's my opportunity. I'm going through. So Maverick is going to have to defend.
Whoa! Whoa!
Something massive has happened there for Mitchell Collin. We've had a major... No, we haven't. It is a glitch in the game. That is not what's just happened.
He's still there.
We've had a glitch in the matrix there, ladies and gentlemen. Netcode
You're seeing it here.
has come in to the picture. That was very scary if that had been real. Luckily, it was just a telemetry problem with the server. Woof.
Yeah, I mean, that was very close indeed there. I felt like he just completely missed his braking zone, but then we've seen it. We've seen the classic GT7 things doing GT7 things, unfortunately. But it looks like Mitch Collins still holding on to his net provider. Can he get the car sent down on the inside through Remus? Hard on the brakes. The disc brakes glowing on the Audi R8, so he had to put so much pressure on the brake pedals there. Bit of a flash of the headlights there, thinking he's providing a bit of a distraction. I wonder if it's a bit of a distraction for Madrick to actually lose his braking point, because remember, it is a tailwind down here, so you just outbrake the car by a few meters. You actually go too deep into the corner, so it might be a bit of a distraction for Mitch Collin that he might be doing.
I don't think he's worked it out yet. Like, Mitch Collin has to work out at some point that, as we see them both bear down on Water Arrow with
this
a 1 second penalty.
Nicholson,
damage
is it trouble?
and penalty. 1 second penalty and damage. We have had a major switch up here. Riley Nicholson has had a major accident and he's gained himself a penalty. Serves it now. Bye-bye. You're now P6. Bob Massey elevated up to P3. Madrick P2, technically in the AM class, and 4th overall. Mitch Collin on for a P2 as well if he can get past. No, that's not for AM class position. That's Pro-Am position, P2. We actually have 3 AM class drivers in the top 5 right now, with Water Arrow dropping well down the order. He hasn't pitted either. He's just going to keep on going. There's only a minute and a half left in this race. Fascinating stuff. I would also like to comment.
2 minutes to go,
yeah, I'd also like to say, not a successful strategy trying to make someone mad who's called Mad Rick. Anyway, that's beside the point, maybe. Nonetheless, fascinating switch up to the end of this race with Water Arrow down in P6.
He's got confidence at turn 3. I mean, he needs to try and get the car pulled up at turn 3. He needs to actually get the car sent on Madrick. He needs to actually make the move there, because he looks like he's so much stronger on the brakes at turn 3. But he's now got an opportunity inside, outside, back into the inside line. Throws the car.
Mistake. He should have covered him off. Oh, he's got the switchback, but no, it's not going to work.
He's got a switchback move, but it's got the overlap on Mitch Collin. No, Mitch Collin holds on, so Mitch Collin gets that position.
Yeah, now it's all over.
Yeah, it's a dummy move there by Mitch Collin. So very wise, very smart head by Mitch Collin. I did say he was strong at 3, but turn 4, wow, what a move that was.
To be honest, mate, Madrick just lifted his skirt, and Mitch said, "Thank you very much. I'll have it." There, like he should have kept his skirt down, and he should have defended the inside line there. He really should have.
Yeah.
As he runs wide, and that's possibly a penalty now into turn 9. Big mistake there. He should have covered him off there into turn 4.
Yeah, I think it's very easy to become complacent, especially in Slosh Gold, where you think, well, everyone opens up the corner, but no, it's a great place for ascend and the brakes and the amount of grip that Mitch Collin has had. He's seen that he's quicker through there. The race is now technically over as we head through the 50-minute mark. We will head back up towards our leaders. They are half a lap till the end of this race. RPM is sitting there happy as anything. Blue flags for Blue Dog at the moment. But yeah, Mitch Collin, I mean, smart driving there. He knew that he could outbrake him into that area, did so, knew that the defense wasn't there, and Madrick just got it all wrong at the end of the race, and as did Water Arrow in this situation. It's unfortunate for them, really, isn't it?
Well, they probably don't realize that the car behind is on much better tires, you know, and can brake a lot later. And you know, whenever you've got someone right under your rear diffuser like that, you've got to move right. You've got to cover them off. Otherwise, you're just lifting your skirt and letting, just inviting them in.
You are indeed. Here we go. It's the last corner in round 8 for Mark Hasseldine, and 2 races in a row. We have an AM class driver winning the overall race. Last time it was Super Bob. Now it's Super Mark across the line, and Hassel won. Motorsport take a 1-2 finish in the Group B for round 8. Jackson Dean takes a P1 position for Pro-Am. Big points for Hassel 1 today. This is going to seal the team's championship. We'll show you the results in a few moments' time. Bob Massey, Super Bob, comes home in P3 overall, second in AM class. Then Mitch Collin, Madrick, Water Arrow, Finch, and Jeff Bruin, a surprise finish in P8. More on that shortly. Well, let's take a little look at the results, ladies and gentlemen. That was an exciting Group B race. It went from here to there to everywhere. Left, right, up, down, backwards, and forwards. And forwards go Hassel 1 Motorsport. An AM class win, an overall win of the race for Mark Hasseldine. Jackson Dean takes home massive points as well. That's 49 points for Mark Hasseldine in P1. I think probably securing himself a victory in AM class and his team's victory in the overall team standings. We'll bring up those standings in a few moments' time. The rest of your results are on screen. Do let us know who your driver of the day is today. Bob Massey, Mitch Collin, P3, P4, second. We had this at Nürburgring actually. We had 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4 in Group B. And it was also the same order. It was AM, Pro-Am, AM, Pro-Am, AM, Pro-Am. So I have to get my tinfoil hat on again, ladies and gentlemen, and wonder what on earth is going on in Group B. Truly Group Bizarre, bringing out the best of the rest, I suppose, today. Absolutely brilliant racing. Then, of course, it is Rick Atwell, Riley Nicholson, Aidan Chase. Looking further down the results, Jack Finch, Jeff Bruin in P8, Troy Britnell, P9, Richard Robinson, P10, Graham Splin, P11, then the unfortunate commiserations to be handed out to Rob Jacobs and Mark Pacheco. What could have been a start to the end of a run towards the P1 spot in Pro-Am ends with a double DNF between the both of them. Really, really unfortunate. Let's throw it over to Nick for driver of the day and thoughts on the race.
Wow, I mean, I have like 1,000 thoughts about this race here. There's definitely a very spicy lobby that was round 8 for the Player One SimGear GT3 Championship. What a round, and Red Bull always delivers some great racing around here. It's probably one of my favorite tracks in the European calendar. Probably maybe a little bit controversial why I don't pick anything like Spa or something as my top. This is definitely my top of the list when it comes to racing here in Europe, but I don't know. It's very hard for driver of the day because there are so many ups and ups in this lobby here, and all the drivers. You know, I could go for somebody like Bob Massey. Super Bob could go for 2 in a row for the driver of the day. I could throw it to Mitch Collin. You know, I mean that's a well-driven performance there. Rick Atwell to come with damage on his car, front splitter damage, to actually come up towards the front. And maybe an honorable mention to Jeff Bruin. You know, he could actually get his name up there for driver of the day, but I think I'm going to have to stick to my guts, and I think the man that deserves my driver of the day is Mark Hasseldine, the leader of Hassel 1 Motorsport. And I have to tell you what, guys, he was actually dominant this round. He actually dominated that race. He was actually faster than his teammate in Jackson Dean. He set the fastest lap. He was lapping quicker, and even on older tires than Jackson Dean, he made the strategy work. He made the fuel last, and he won, and he got the victory, and he got himself that second win in a row for the AM drivers in Group B. So my driver of the day to Mark Hasseldine, but that doesn't mean that everybody else gets driver of the day. I feel like, you know, well, if I could give a second driver of the day, I would have to give it to Mitch Collin for a fantastic drive for Lightning Motorsport. But it is the rules, and it goes to Mark.
Fantastic stuff. All right, thank you, Nick. Now let's go to Andrew Scott. Thoughts on the race and your driver of the day, please.
Yeah, well, normally when a driver in amateur class gets P3 overall, you would think that that would be a obvious driver of the day, like Bob Massey, Uncle Bob, Sponge Bob, mate. My hat's off to him, but he didn't even get first place in his category. So it's, for me, an obvious driver of the day to Mark Hasseldine, who not only executed well and drove well, but he won his category and he won the race overall. He got 49 points for his troubles. It's an obvious driver of the day for me to mark.
Fantastic stuff. So Mark with a couple of points there, and yeah, I completely agree with you guys. It's really a really difficult one to choose driver of the day today. So many options. So let us know in chat who your driver of the day is. What an unbelievable race from Group Bazaar. You guys have done it again. It's absolutely brilliant stuff. Completely overshadowed what we've had happen in Group A. I think despite, yes, an honorable mention from many around the grid, Hassel won, securing the team's title. Another AM class victory. Jackson Dean extending his lead as well, albeit maybe with a little bit of luck involved that time. I'm going to actually give my driver of the day to Jeff Bruin. Coming off the back of a very long break, stepping into a Mercedes that's very uncomfortable. I think hats off to him. It would have been a top 10 finish even if Rob Jacobs and Pacheco had remained in the race. So well done, Jeff. You get my vote today. Ladies and gentlemen, let us know who your driver of the day is. What an unbelievable bit of racing there. Let's take a look at the Pro-Am and AM standings before we talk about the team standings where we think something has indeed been secured. Jackson Dean in the Pro-Am category now with a huge lead over Rob Jacobs and Mark Pacheco. This is massive, and I think he is very close to being mathematically unstoppable in the remainder of the season. He may be able to secure it next round. At the moment, still think there's a mathematical possibility if he gets 2 DNFs in a row. Rob Jacobs, Mark Pacheco is still battling it out for the P2 spot. Mitch Collin in P4, a little bit out of contention for the top 3 as we've known for most of the second half of the season. Shane Attard for Astra Racing in P5, Richard Robertson P6, Robert Rice for CP Motorsport in 7th, and then Jeff Bruin makes an appearance on his own standing screen in Pro-Am class in 8th place. Nick, over to you for AM class.
Absolutely. With the points hauled up, Mark Hasseldine has got 392 points versus Troy Britnell's 253. It is mathematically impossible for Troy Britnell to challenge Mark Hasseldine. So the AM Driver Championship is going to go to Mark Hasseldine and Hassel One Motorsport, taking the victory and the championship next to his name. So big congratulations to the man that is the leader of Hassel One Motorsport. 392, a solid campaign this man has been having this year in season 2024. But honorable mentions as well goes down to Troy Britnell in P2. Bob Massey clawing, starting to make the charge now. He's starting to close up on Troy Britnell. 2 rounds to go. Bob Massey could be on for a P2 to finish off his 2024 season in the MotorMotion E-Series Player 1 Sim Gear GT3 Championship. Then we have Aiden Chase in 4th place for Astra Racing. Kevin Cooper was the driver that was missing here tonight. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see the Hooncorp driver make an appearance here at Red Bull Ring. And then we have Rick Atwell in 6th, Jack Finch in 7th, and Graham Splint still rounding up in 8th place. 2 points separating those 2 drivers, yet to make the 3-digit figures. But that is a big points haul for Mark Hasseldine. And as I reported there, it is impossible for anybody else to take the charge to Mark Hasseldine, and that is your champion in the AM division.
Wow, big congratulations to Mark Hasseldine. What a season in AM class. Absolutely stunning stuff, and a well-deserved overall win. Of course, all the results to be confirmed by the MotorMotion admins as we barrel towards the end of the season. Let's take a look at the current team standings, where we believe Hassel One Motorsports have indeed won the team standings. Again, to be confirmed, the results and all of that will be posted into the Facebook group and the MotorMotion E-Series website, www.motormotioneseries.wordpress.com. But on 1,291 points by the end of round 8, Hassel One Motorsport have dominated the season, and congratulations. I can see, well, I think I can hear as well, the congratulations already being shouted down in their garage, and the champagne bottle, no doubt, to be opened very, very soon. Hooncorp Esports on 875, now equal with Gridline Racing, so somehow this has actually come back the way of Gridline Racing, and with the DNF, I think there was a couple of, there was a DNS, I think there was, for Hooncorp in Group B. I think a bad result for one of their drivers, Dean van der Zaan, in Group A. That did not help their cause, so even Dan Wood being in P7, they've clawed back a lot of points. Massive bit of work there by Gridline Racing. 875 points apiece for Hooncorp Esports and Gridline Racing. So while Hassel One have run away with it, there is still a massive battle on for P2 in this. Then Asta Racing in P4, Black Rose Racing in P5. Still a battle between those two, only 7 points separated. 20 points back is Lightning Motorsports in P6. Diffusion Race Engineering about 70 points behind there. And then CP Motorsports on a bit of a charge back, but still a fair distance off. A little bit of a battle going on for P7. So all we can say, gentlemen, here in the commentary box is congratulations, Hassel 1 Motorsport. Let's see what happens between Hooncorp and Gridline.
Absolutely, and you know, Hassel 1 can just kick back, they can relax, they can have a fun time in the final 2 rounds at Catalunya, at Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya, and as well at the Spa-Francorchamps. So they're going to be there having a good time, maybe put a bit of goals on their car for the last couple of rounds, maybe change the yellow to gold. But yeah, it's going to be spicy. Hooncorp and Gridline Racing, here we go. You know, unfortunate ends to Rob Jacobs and Mark Pacheco put a bit of a damper on the progress of what could have been in that team's championship. But yeah, Kevin Cooper's absence for Hooncorp Esports must have just didn't help them as much in this result. Obviously, not to his own fault, but as well, they're going to need to have all of their drivers ready to go for Catalunya and for Spa-Francorchamps if one of them wants to take P2 in this championship. Who wants it most? We'll find out in 2 rounds time, but it's going to be a very spicy finish to wrap up this Player 1 SimGear GT3 championship.
Absolutely right. So we'll have some final words from Andrew Scott as well, and then we will round out the broadcast. Andrew, still a fan of Group B, I think?
Absolutely. Group brutal today. Unfortunately, a couple of guys got absolutely hammered with disconnects and you know, bad luck. But yeah, Group B doing well, and this P2 in the teams, guys, it's getting spicy, isn't it? So 2 rounds to go and they're dead level. So bring it on.
There we go.
Add a few more chili flakes to it, and it's going to be probably one of the spiciest things you'll ever see and taste in the world.
Well, and very appropriate that round 9 is at Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya Grand Prix, where of course the spice is absolutely on tap, and we will be having a great time out there in the land of Spain in a week's time. Very much looking forward to that. That race will be happening later, mid-December-ish, just before the mid-December, before Nick Patasso goes on holiday, which we'll talk about next round. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to today's broadcast on MotorMotion E-Series YouTube channel. Give us a like and subscribe. Hope you've had a fantastic time watching and viewing today. Congratulations to Hassel 1 Motorsports on their championship drive, and to Mark Hasseldean for sealing out AM category today as well. Player 1 SimGear GT3 Championship continues in a week's time. We'll be head to Catalunya for round 9 and finish out in round 10 at Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. My name is George Cooke, joined by Nick Pautasso and Andrew Scott in the commentary box. Pleasure and a privilege, as always, to bring you the coverage, and we will see you back here, same place, similar time, for round 9. Thank you all so much, and goodbye. And away we go here at cloudy Nürburgring GP. Everyone being cautious, they know it's a long race. Still 21 laps to go. So we just started the race, and already we're seeing so much action on track.